All right, here's the Meeseeks box. It does
Hello, welcome back to the BGS podcast number 62. We are streaming this on July 14th, 2017. I am your host, Pat Kesterson. With me tonight are
John Futcher.
Greg Giles.
And Chris Langford.
we are 45 minutes late.
Sorry.
But
I'm not.
yeah, Greg's been here since like 6.
I've been here all day. Minus a baby trip.
I was here earlier than all of you.
It's true.
So
It's true.
Yet somehow still late.
I don't know.
That's
I'm
fair.
cool like that.
Yeah.
We are the Buffalo Game Space. We are a not-for-profit organization in Buffalo, New York. We are a place for people to come and be part of a community of game developers. We are all types of devs. We got, what would you describe yourselves as?
Coders,
Yeah.
Programmers,
software
designers.
developers.
Okay, I'm 3D modeler myself, and art person. Any donation you give or would be willing to give will be heavily appreciated. As we are not for profit, so we don't get a profit. Turns out, is what that means. So we get all the money that we get is from you, the people, and from memberships. And we're trying to fill that bar.
Nope, over. It's
there.
Right, this one.
Currently, we're trying to get some SoundClouds, but we might have. We might switch
We
that
have
for something a
SoundCloud.
little bit more fun.
That's where our podcast
I
goes.
see.
Oh, it's pretty fun.
I see what you
I
did
will.
there.
I would say that it's pretty awesome that we filled the previous bar.
Yeah.
This
by
is
the
correct.
way, we should call that out.
We
Yeah.
did fill the previous
Celebrate.
bar, as you can see. We
Look
got
at
the
this.
2 new mics.
Hey.
Thanks to all the supporters out there that got us
Hooray.
actually better gear.
Got
and
us the
so
actual mic.
This thing will get better and better.
That's my hope. That's all I'm living for at this point. But any donations you make during the stream will go straight to us. No questions asked. So we'll
Well,
be used actually for...
not
items
us.
better.
No.
Not the
But-
organization, BGS, the
Us.
organization.
Yes.
The
It
whole greater whole.
behooves us to make it very clear that none of us get any of the money. It all goes into the community here in town.
No, we definitely do.
As I'm drinking $20 vodka. I mean Pepsi. Anyway. Oh, God, I hate these parts.
It's your favorite part.
He
Yes.
needs to start paying me.
We're
One of them.
we're here to support the community, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
Shotgun Farmers is an online multiplayer shooter where your bullets grow the guns. The only way to get more ammo or find new weapons is to grow them yourselves or harvest the plants grown by other farmers, and that shit is out right now on early access. I don't know what the what's the price? $10?
I think
$10.
it's $10.
I'm pretty
and it's
sure it's
on
$10.
early access, but it's not like early access,
Like
buggy
don't
beta,
work
full
early
of
access?
stolen art early access. This is
It's
a
not-
solid game.
It's not
Yeah.
vaporware. It's not
No,
like
it's-
it's an idea that they're putting out and trying to raise. No, you can already when you pay for it, you can play it immediately, and it works and it's fun and it's cool.
It's actually exactly the game that you would put in early access, because the way that you would build content for that game, leveraging your community the way that Quasi does is he puts it out. He put it in early access with like 2 maps, and now he can build the content with a community and make it the best, so that when it goes out, since it's a multiplayer game, it'll actually have a player base, and 2, the content will be built in early access with the player base of the maps. In theory, will be good. He's doing good so far.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of really cool variety he already has, considering how short it's been in development.
It's amazing.
year, right?
Actually, I think
Not
sometimes.
even
Not even. It's like
No.
6 months, and he's
Yeah.
Well,
a little bit more than that, but yeah, just about like it's crazy. He's got a lot there for how little time he's actually been working on it. So
Mhm.
yeah,
well, a lot of time inside a little time.
well, yes.
Yeah.
He would tell you that if he were here with us, but sadly, he passed this morning. No.
passed on attending the podcast, perhaps.
Who was I hanging out this afternoon with?
Who did I
Ghost.
just see like 20 minutes ago?
Ghost.
Weekend at Quasi's.
You guys have seen Quasi. I haven't seen Quasi. Where's Quasi at? Let's get his ass over here.
I don't know. He's in like the big bicep club right now, so he's doing cool beefy arm things.
Yeah.
That's true. He did.
think
He
he's
was
just-
doing that earlier.
I'm just doing curls with beers.
Yeah.
Not really.
He would
good
have
with
like 2 of
muscle.
those and
That's
die.
really it's
Light
really
beers
light.
too.
It
Yeah.
is. Well, he's not using light beer. That would be silly.
Yeah, obviously. On to the other one. Some 2D platformers give you rewards
Great,
like more
great,
points
great.
or extra lives when you jump on multiple enemies without touching the floor. This Elimination Tower offers you a much grander prize for doing this: survival. Play as a queue of randomly generated contestants that enter the tower, all hoping to win cash, prizes, i.e. hats, and the glory of being the first person to ever reach the top of this Elimination Tower. But they'll have to look out for Fist. Yes. And that should be out later this month.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke with him about that last night.
Yeah.
He's actually
Yeah,
out there right
it's
now.
actually
playing
he's right outside this door.
Mhm.
He's got the game hooked up. People are play testing
it.
it.
Right.
If you're
now.
watching and you're nearby, just come over and play it. It's a lot of fun.
Great game.
Great game. I'm
Not
in
in
it
early
now,
access.
apparently.
No.
So are you.
Yeah.
And
he
Quasi
modeled
with his
everybody-
biceps.
He modeled everybody who was at Project Night last night.
Yeah, pretty much. Turns out we're all very easy to recreate in pixel art. Well, I guess we were referencing it earlier, but he just came from a sweet-ass concert. That guy was playing. This was taken by moi a couple hours ago. Watch this sweet footage. I don't know if it's playing loudly.
Yeah,
But
we can just do it.
The,
hope it's
the
tunes
best
by
part is
Greg.
this is the spooky scary song that he was playing out there.
Was he really?
Yeah,
Just for Mark.
just for Mark because Mark was shit talking him.
Was he heckling him?
He did like.
He was gonna play it no matter what.
Yeah.
If I was there.
Oh,
it
that
would've
was
been
an
because I
excuse.
was there.
Yeah,
'cause
that was an
messing
excuse.
with me. Yeah.
Is that the beautiful 198 in the background?
Nope, that is the beautiful
No, this is
Elmwood.
just looping a 12-second
Yes.
video because I couldn't get the other one to work.
Yeah, so this was happening outside of the Birchfield Penny Arts Center. They do second Fridays are their free gallery nights, second Friday every month. And this time they were doing a kind of a video game centric thing, which sounds like it's going to be the first of many.
I hope so.
Yeah, but
There
they
was
had-
actually a lot of people there, even
yeah,
at
there
the
was,
beginning.
there was a good crowd. And we had Hang On Get Ready was playing.
which is
SP3.
Swedish, the guy you just saw.
Yeah, Stevie Boyer played after him, and then Daniel Cannon played last, and they were in the process of setting up after that some. They were gonna be projecting indie games and stuff.
Oh,
up
that's
on
cool.
the building.
Speaking of Anthony Swinish, Hang On, Get Ready, he just put out an EP.
Mhm.
Was it a month ago now? A month or two ago?
A couple months
This
ago.
has been
Yeah.
May. So, but you can go find that online at
Should
his
link it.
website. I should,
Yeah.
but people never click on links in chat.
No, it's a good EP. Some
It's a-
asshole made the art for it. It's shit.
Yeah.
He also has another EP.
Since I
or,
said I was the only art guy here, I'm gonna reference that it was him and not me.
There's another piece he's got out, or another set of singles as well. Chip for Change. That's a collaboration between like 12 other artists, I want to say. I don't know. Don't hold me
Sure.
to that. Several other artists. So it's a big collection of chiptunes, and all donations are going, I believe, to the ACLU.
Oh, that's neat.
Everything's getting donated to charity.
Good.
Everything they make off of it. So
I
it's
would
another good
figure
collection to
the
check
chip
out.
for charity part. Real quick, while I'm monitoring this, if we're having issues with the stream tonight, so if we start lagging out a little bit, bear with us. I'm keeping a close eye on OBS and stream health, but if we have issues, please don't leave. Please, this is all I have. I can't leave this room. I actually stay here this
I
whole
should
time.
stop that torrent of all those Disney films and Family Guy episodes.
Why are you watching Disney films?
I'm just trying to think of like the
little
most
litigious
the most
stuff.
likely to just get hammered by
Yeah. Austin Powers 2 or whatever the thing was that was like heavily marked, and everybody got like millions of dollars in potential fines for downloading some goofy
Really?
movie.
That happened apparently. Okay, well,
Yes,
don't
it
do
did.
It
that.
did happen. I do remember that.
Don't do that, kids. Anyway, news for the week: Google Home potentially saved somebody's life. Earlier this week, it called police during a domestic dispute. It was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. A couple was having a dispute in the home. The boyfriend allegedly pulled a gun on the girlfriend and asked, "quote unquote," "Did you call the sheriffs?" The home registered this as "call the sheriffs," and a SWAT standoff ensued outside the home until a few hours later, where the man surrendered. The girlfriend was sent to the hospital, but their daughter was completely unharmed. But it's just kind of weird that the home was listening to this whole thing. And this actually falls in line with a story a couple weeks ago where the Amazon Echo was recording some data. And hey, Ed, how you doing, bro? Ed's our first subscriber. Oh, never mind. I was gonna have something on the wall for you, like as our first $1, but it was just gonna be his
Missed
name.
it by this much.
Missed it by I completely forgot to do it. But hey, how you doing, man? But so the Amazon handed over all the data that they had to police to help in a murder investigation. But they totally did that, and not only did they do it, but they were legally allowed to. So that's all that's the future. That is Big Brother is literally watching right now.
Well, I wouldn't call that Big Brother.
It's
That's
big Amazon.
well, but that's totally different in the sense of there's invasive government going beyond their ability to spy on people directly, and people voluntarily and purposefully putting things in their home that record everything that they say, and companies caching and stashing and retaining all of that data instead of overwriting it and wiping it and putting magnets to hard drives. So I'd say it's very different. It's a very different ethical question as opposed to simply like, is the government spying on you? Yeah, that's bad. That's nobody. It's like, oh no, I think they should. They just spy on all of us all the time. But there's certain things that technology affords you that when you turn it on and you allow it into your house, you kind of allow other things.
You're
to it.
volunteering for it.
Right. Well, and this was a huge issue when Microsoft Kinect came out, especially the Xbox One version of Microsoft Kinect, because the original Kinect was just there. You could use it to play games. You could talk to it and whatnot. And actually, the voice recognition is really good. But the new one would allow you to control everything, including turning on the Xbox, which means it's always on, whether you're running your Xbox or not.
Yeah.
And so actually Germany banned the device. Like you couldn't sell an Xbox One in Germany with a Kinect because they considered it basically you're putting a spy device in people's houses.
Germany also, to be fair, has an absurdly like huge into privacy. Like
Right.
drones are fucking banned. Like,
Sure,
so-
and you could make the argument one way or the other whether they have the right idea or if it's up to people.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's absurd. I would say it's surprisingly organized, but absurd. No, because all that stuff is, I mean, where it could go.
I mean,
scary,
the
right?
question is
that's the point. Is like
what should
this.
be banned?
It
though?
worked out
Like,
well now. Like a life
Right.
got potentially saved, and like somebody got brought to justice.
So these are two
But it's just-
instances in which there are devices people, again, voluntarily have brought into their homes, but have in their homes nevertheless, that are collecting information at any given
Sorry.
time and distributing it to corporations, and then from there to who knows where else. So it's, I don't know, it does raise a lot of ethical questions.
Sorry, it was saying when voice recognition saves lives, could you imagine if it was like, I don't understand you. Would you like to call the sheriff? That's pretty funny.
See, what they really need is like an in-home version of Clippy. It's like, oh,
Right.
it looks like you're trying to call the police.
No.
You're trying to shoot a family member.
Looks like you're trying to beat your wife. Would you like to call the sheriff?
It is interesting that the dude basically asked a question and it picked up the tail
He
end of it.
boned himself.
And yeah,
Yeah.
if he had just not said anything. I mean,
That's
this is an example-
interesting.
But it's an interesting story in the sense that he basically issued a command unwittingly that got himself in trouble, albeit he should have gotten in trouble regardless.
Absolutely.
And he may well have ended there anyway. Like there's no one, you can't say that she wouldn't have called the sheriffs on her own somehow, or like the same thing could have happened without the device and the thing. Like to turn around and be like, this is a good thing, everybody should have this on all the time. Like that's absolutely the wrong way to take any of
It's
this.
like thank you for smoking, right? Like he gets kidnapped and like he's a spokesman for cigarettes, and then like some like anti-cigarette people kidnap him and they put all these nicotine patches on him, like enough to overdose him, but he lives because he's a smoker. So he comes on TV and he's like, smoking saved my life, and like he uses it as a case to like be like, yeah, smoking's good, but like no, that's just an edge case, right? Where
Does any of you have an Echo?
No.
I have an
Quasi
Echo.
does.
Quasi
in,
does?
Our apart. Yeah. So like I have one around me, but I don't.
What, Mike?
We have an Echo Dot in my house, and we also have a Kinect. We've had the Kinect on the Xbox since I got the Xbox One,
Yeah.
and
Because you didn't have a choice.
well,
That's
you could have just unplugged it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not like the thing always worked without it.
Not at the
Everybody
not at the
freaked
beginning.
out, but you could have unplugged it and just turned it on with the controller. You
So
could. It
nobody
never
just-
shipped.
Nobody
never-
thought of that. For
It never
some
shipped
reason.
without. It never shipped without the ability to turn it on.
Forgot about that.
And but that's how I use it. It is always on in my house. Like I say Xbox on, it turns on, and I
Mine
use it to
stopped
control. We use it to control Netflix and whatnot. It's actually really super handy and great, especially with like the baby and whatnot. Like when your hands are occupied, you can pause stuff and like control things really easily with the voice stuff. That I've never used it to actually play a game. I only use it to control movies and TV.
See, I'm glad it works for you because like we've got an original Xbox or a 360 and an original Kinect, and
It's
like
not as good. I had an
No.
original Kinect as well.
so
Yeah.
I ended up unplugging it permanently because we would watch Netflix on the 360 and shows would stop themselves. They would trigger the menu like just random
it
dialogue
would
sounded
just
like
like,
Xbox.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's just
Oh
like,
no! Oh no!
They
Yeah.
did that on one of the early streams or whatever. They're talking about the things is like, and you could tell like your Xbox to turn off, and like people who are watching the stream on their Xbox, like their Xbox is
Xbox
turned
turn
off.
off. Yep.
These guys have tried to do it to me before because I've watched this podcast live on Twitch
No.
with the Xbox on.
I
They've
never
been
did.
With an Xbox turned off.
Yes.
No, it did not turn off actually.
Did Xbox delete hard drive?
It
Don't
didn't-
know. If,
It didn't
well,
do.
First off, you have to
yes.
say Cortana now. So
I've never said that.
Really?
And also, I disabled that on my laptop.
Cortana
Yeah.
donate to stream.
So
all the money.
the
It's like
You just see donated $2,500. Like
the new version I've
Score.
actually been surprised about how good it is about picking things up even in like a noisy environment and like and having like a movie up really loud and then being able and sometimes you got to yell over it, but for the most part it can filter out it knows it's playing. But yeah, I mean
it seems like it should sample, like it knows what audio is going out,
You
so
would
it
think
should
it would
be able to
listen to it,
sample and
yeah.
filter that. And I know that some stuff does that.
yeah, and you actually are supposed to, when you first hook it up, there's a calibration procedure where you actually train it to like where your speakers are, and it's like turn them all the way up, and it plays like a sample track, and it like records like the volume scenario, like the sound profile of like where your TV is, and like this is what like basically it's like how do you watch movies? Turn all that shit all the way up, and it plays like a sample, and it records it out, and now it knows how to like basically zero out, like you calibrate to your room.
Also, it recognizes your voice. Well, the Echo does, because like when Quasi talks, it'll talk back, but when he's not talking to it, it'll talk back, but it doesn't.
It
do
won't
that to
register
me.
as him.
Yeah.
Well, the
Well,
reason why I asked
you do have to say Xbox first before like any of these things. It won't like it doesn't just you can't just say like I want to turn
Well,
the TV off or whatever.
Before
like,
it
won't
listens
do that.
to you, you have to say Xbox. Before it does what
No,
you
before
want
it
it to do.
responds. It's always
Yes.
listening,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, the reason why I asked about the Echo in particular, because unless one of you guys have a Google Home,
I don't.
I didn't think so. Because I'd figure like, doesn't it ask for confirmation, or is
No.
it just because of emergency
So like
call?
my phone, I have an Android phone. I've got an Nexus 5, and I can ask it things similar to like Google Home, and it doesn't ask for confirmation. If I go, okay, Google,
It just does it.
look up this album for
Yeah,
me.
it
It'll
just
just
does
do
it.
it.
My
Yeah.
phone
Well,
does
the
that.
album I can understand, but like for a phone call, like I don't know. But again, because maybe it was
The
an
only time
emergency
I've
phone
ever
call.
seen it
used
do
it
like a
that way.
confirmation is on a text message, and it's just making sure that like if I said, "Okay, Google, text Max, don't forget to make the tacos," like it would be like, "Did you mean to
Helps
say this?" And
Somebody's
it'll be
phone
like,
is telling somebody to make tacos, right?
"Yeah, right," and then. It'll be like, did you mean
It's
to
the
say
best
this?
thing ever.
And then it'll show you like written up what it thinks you said.
Yeah.
So like when it's doing speech to text kind of stuff,
Right,
it'll
they've
show
already gotten a little
verification,
bit of
but-
trouble for people have had Amazon like one-click basically style, like somebody sent something around their Echo and it ordered something for them
Yeah.
instead of like when they didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
But to the point that you just inadvertently brought up, this is the thing that I've been talking about for years now. Is
way back when.
way back when. I think we've even talked about it on previous podcasts. If you've hung out around me long enough, you've probably heard the same rants for years. But basically, the whole stuff where you're tracking the voice stuff, that's only one part of the technology, right? That, in conjunction with now the fact that data is cheap, storage is cheap, the fact that everything's connected online, like, because it's one thing to have voice recognition on something that's offline, but if it's online, they can store it all, and then you have the translational software that's been around since the 90s that can take sound and translate it to text, and then you go the next step further and say that it's coming off of your phone, and that has GPS location. There's other people around you have GPS locational stuff. If you take all these things down the line and you add them all together, what you have is anytime you're anywhere and you're having a conversation with somebody, there could be a text version of your conversation tagged with where you were, who was there with you, what time and date it occurred at, and it's now searchable within a database by either somebody who's searching it or like an AI or whatever, where you could be like, I want to know everybody who talked about the home run derby in Boston on Thursday night in this neighborhood, and
Wasn't
there
it
could
in
be
Miami?
you could get data back on that and say like,
And the
Yeah,
thing is,
yeah.
is like people like increasingly like when we're younger.
Keep it off the table.
Okay. When we were younger, you know, you look at technology and like younger people embrace this stuff. So like, I don't want this stuff in my home, but like kids will want it in their home, and they'll be like, "What's the big deal?" And I think
well, there's
It'll come up
that's the
that way.
convenience thing, right?
I have
know,
thought about
and-
getting a Google Home. I will say, like I've thought about, it, but then I realized,
Well, like you're saying, younger people.
yeah, right, hi, younger person.
Right.
I don't know, but then I realized like, what would it really add to me? Like I don't. I already just use an iPod or my phone for stuff, so I don't really see myself using it personally. But I can agree with that point though.
But it's not even so much the younger people are okay with it, is that generationally the idea of privacy and what is acceptable part of public discourse has changed drastically, and it's just happened slow enough that people don't realize that, 30 years ago, if somebody was like, hey man, like what'd you do this weekend? Be like, dude, I posted all that shit online. They'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? What? You just wrote down and took pictures of all the things you did and you put it up in a public forum,
exactly.
and everybody is doing it like all the time, like Facebook and all of this stuff is a constant public record of everything that's going on.
It's the
It is-
norm now. Yeah.
Yeah,
And once it speeds up, you have to do it to stay up to speed with everybody because everybody else is living at that speed.
well,
right?
that's the other thing is like everybody worries about like government surveillance, and they don't take into account the fact that the government doesn't need to surveil anything anymore.
No, everybody's doing it
Everybody's
for them.
doing it for them, and they just need to mine the data. Like it has nothing to do with wiretapping and listening to your phone calls. It has everything to do with
So yeah,
people reporting on themselves.
everybody's
rap
so
snitches.
excited to talk about how amazing their lives are and how brilliant everything is, and they post all this stuff up on these social media platforms that all have public APIs
Oh yeah,
that you can just easily just write up a script and just
yeah.
data mine.
Not even the
just
government.
these-
You could do
yeah,
it.
anybody
Yeah.
could do this.
Isn't that kind of the point of them? Like they actually made them
Partially.
that way, so
Yeah.
you could make an app that could like.
Yeah, no,
What's
absolutely.
the one that you use? Or a lot of people use a TweetDeck or something like that. Like just general
Buffer?
stuff.
Well, it's not even
Buffer.
that.
No, not like
But
that.
not even
No,
that,
like,
it's-
like, say I wanted to just set up write an application that's like I want to track everybody that does the lap around my house every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
And I could go on to like Google Maps data or any other Map My Ride, and I could just in theory, if people set their accounts with the wrong privacy settings or they just don't care, I could just pull all that information down and map it out and see what time everybody does their little rounds, around that particular spot at any given time. And again, depending on their privacy settings, I could get their name, I could get their photo, I could get their bike setup, I could get whatever information is available to me. And if I can do that, you can bet other people are doing it that you probably don't want.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
it's big business.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason that those platforms even make any money is because they can sell that data.
Mhm.
You can use that data and aggregate it, and then target your advertisements to people that have bought things that are similar in the past, that might be running in the circles where they'd be interested in the certain things.
And the degrees to which companies will go to get this information, to get that kind of advertising out to people is, I think a lot of people would find it pretty unbelievable. In a previous position of employment, there was some work done where we were trying to sell like really expensive equipment to like high-level corporations and try to hit people, like advertise directly to like executive level or a certain level or above.
Mhm.
And we were able to go out
Decision
and
makers.
buy, and we were able to go out and buy lists of IP addresses of people in those areas and directly target those people through their IP. So they would get like specific advertisements on their home computer, on their office computer. And this information, you can just, if you want it, you can get it.
Mhm.
That's the crazy thing.
That's gross.
Future.
yeah,
We're in
all-
it.
yeah.
But on the other hand, look, if somebody like there's
It's
also,
there,
I mean, there's
yeah.
a counter argument that like, well, you could just get stuff you really need directly advertised to you. Like, not all the stuff that gets advertised to you. And I'm actually not of this opinion. I'm just devil's avocado. If
I see what you did
there's
there.
services that like people, I mean, like maybe that's a service those guys really needed.
Yeah, no,
it makes-
that's the,
it
again,
could've,
it's
you know?
it's all kind of It's all perspective.
Yeah.
It's the
Like-
Google Home did a good thing, but it still makes people uncomfortable. It's the
Yeah.
same concept.
It all depends on like who gets access to that information.
Yes, this is true.
So, and again,
You
it
gotta-
depends on how comfortable you are with people advertising directly to you or doing other things with your information.
Right.
Well, moving on. Before that was topic number 1. Summer Games Done Quick ended this week. The SGDQ ended this week on July 9th, 2017. Today being the 14th. After 7 days, they raised $1,760,000 for Doctors Without Borders, which last year's being $1.3 million. The charity is a speedrunning marathon running 24/7 for a week, featuring a large variety of games where viewers can impact the run by bidding towards changing certain aspects of it, like changing a character's name, maybe difficulty, a certain a task that they have to do, whatever. But
Yep.
that is an absurd amount of money in just a week. So kudos to them for doing that.
It was
Always
pretty-
a fun watch too.
Yeah, there's lots of really cool shit in there, especially when you're looking at some of the older games, and they run obscure games that are just like really broken, and you can see
The,
like, really
um,
insane things.
The firefighting game. I don't know if you
Oh,
guys saw
yeah.
that. That was
Yeah.
the
I
see
coolest
that.
thing.
The what?
It was
What
it
was
was
that
some like
called?
arcade top-down shooter, but you played a firefighter or a
Yeah.
firefighter, and you actually like
Top-down
had like
shooter?
a it was
'Cause
like an
I've
old arcade
seen,
game. It was a old Konami game, I
old,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Because I've
probably
seen an
late 80s, early
arcade game
90s.
where you actually like held the hose like a light gun.
This was like a top-down 2D like it almost looked like a shmup kind of thing. But you're a firefighter and you've got your water hose gun and
Majora's
you're just like
Mask
putting
was
out
one
fires
run
and stuff.
was
It was
crazy.
like it was crazy. It was really cool.
pretty nuts.
It was really cool. The art style was great. It actually looked like it would be pretty fun to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's tons of games like that. Like I wonder, man, there's got to be. I was trying to get one of our friend Doug. He played what's that PlayStation game he played? That,
Oh,
the Bruce Willis.
The Bruce Willis like top
Apocalypse.
down.
yeah,
for
like, I wanted
PlayStation
him
1.
to play like Apocalypse. I wonder what the speedrunning scene is for that game.
That game, just having seen it, there's probably a way to like jump off a cliff in the first room and go to the end credits.
For anyone who's not
Yeah.
familiar with this, it's like a 3D puzzle platformer action game starring Bruce Willis, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
And
His
it's just
polygonal
bananas. And it looks
version of him.
janky as hell, and it's kind of amazing.
It's the kind of game you would play because it's 1999 and you have a PlayStation and 2 games in
and
like,
Bruce Willis.
and no money and you're a kid and it's the only game you have. So you just play the shit out of it.
Yeah, I mean it's a really cool thing that Southern Games done quick. You see a lot of really interesting stuff in old games. We got Extra Life will be coming up here in a few months. We always do here where we try to raise money for Women and Children's Hospital, and that's just like a marathon where there are some speed runs that happen within that from local guys that know how to beat games quickly.
Like, would you say they run them speedily?
No.
No.
But it is interesting. They raised insane amount of money. Did you guys see, not to like get into the other side of the spectrum, but when Notch made his
I
donation?
didn't see it, but I heard about it.
I just watched. It was like a 10-second clip because it was just
Yeah.
he made a $10,000 donation
Oh.
during like Super Mario 3 or something like that.
Dude, that
and
runner
they
was
announced
like,
it
yes!
live. Yeah,
Well-
they announced it live, and it was basically like the guy was running it. It's like, we've got a donation for $10,000, and there's a huge the auditorium full of people, and they're all like, yeah, and everybody starts flipping out. And then they're like, and it's okay, let's see what here, and it's from Notch himself, and it's like and then you hear some people, and you hear some people being like, like,
Yeah.
it's like boo.
Best way to look at that, his money is just as green as anybody
Oh,
else.
and it's
It
going
is,
to, and it's
and it
going
went
to
to
a good cause.
cause.
It's going
Really
to charity.
surprised.
It's going to a good cause.
That does not seem like
But
the kind of thing he would throw money at.
But the
Well,
crowd,
I don't understand why the crowd like, oh, fuck that
His
guy.
public-
He did something good with his life.
Yeah, it's the internet though.
Well,
he
it's
could have.
well,
He
it's
could have
because of what he's been up to recently.
Yeah,
pissed
he's-
off.
well, we're not going to get into
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah,
but
that's not a
it
topic
has
tonight.
nothing to do with the fact that,
That
he
is
made
not a
Minecraft.
topic tonight. We're
He's-
not diving into
Nah,
that
he's
one.
suffice it to say he's not very popular right now for
I heard.
reasons
Vaguely,
that
yeah.
are
Yeah,
we don't need to get into that.
That's a whole can of worms. But, oh yes, great things
That
happening.
story's way funnier now, actually.
Great things happening there. But moving down the line, a Fallout 4 commercial led to a lawsuit this week, or at least it was filed this week. It was probably building up for a little while. Musician Dion DiMucci, I do not know if I'm pronouncing that right,
Oh,
but
I
I'm
heard about
going
this.
for it. Musician from the 60s, who he had 2 large songs, one of them being Runaway Sue. is suing ZeniMax, a parent company of Bethesda, for using his song in a commercial. The song being "The Wanderer," which is his other big song. Going to hit a button here, and this is the commercial. Hopefully, it's not super loud, but the commercial just showing Fallout 4 images from that. DiMucci had an agreement with Universal so that his songs could be used in this manner. He said in a California court this week that the song could not be played without separately bargaining with, quote unquote, DiMucci himself. He says his approval was not sought, and he feels the commercial had, quote unquote, repugnant and morally indefensible images. He is suing ZeniMax for $1 million in damages on top of legal costs, claiming, quote unquote again, their continued presence is an ongoing, irreparable injury, referring to the commercial still being on YouTube and other outlets.
Okay.
That was
So yeah, that's a thing. When I read that, it was interesting to kind of see that, because the first thing my mind went to was the story about Roy Orbison and Blue Velvet and how frustrated he was at first. Where they used one of his songs.
I remember this. What was the game?
No, not the game.
No.
Movie.
Oh,
Blue
movie?
Velvet, the David
Oh.
Lynch film.
Yeah.
And there's
I
a
didn't see
scene.
that.
There's a scene where they use his song. Oh, I can't remember the title of it. I don't know if it's like the Sandman, Candy Colored Clown. They call the Sandman. There's some extreme imagery, and it's a pretty dark movie. They go in conjunction with this song,
So
and he
David
was not.
Lynch film.
So
yeah,
yeah,
he didn't
Goes
want it
without saying.
used, but I guess over time he really warmed up to it and was like,
Oh,
he
yeah?
basically came to the conclusion that like he couldn't see that movie without that song.
Interesting.
Like he felt it was really well used.
yeah.
The thing that I have to say with this in particular is, okay, so it showed the thing I can think of right now is the shot of him firing on I think they're supermutants, I can't remember, and then the actual like the nuke going off.
So, here's the thing.
morally repugnant part.
I'm
The-
assuming
Yeah.
that, like, I'm just looking at it. I don't know.
The artist that wrote and performed this song, he said he had big hits in the 60s.
Correct.
So he's an older gentleman.
In the Cold War era.
Yeah,
So,
that's
all
gotta
right.
be-
So
So-
let's going back
Which-
to what we were talking about earlier about how younger people are just so accustomed to these things, they just kind of accept it.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of surveillance. Same thing comes with media. Like we are so desensitized to this kind of stuff. If you were to show this trailer to someone from, 30, 40 years ago,
Like the 60s?
yeah, exactly. It's
That's
70s,
like,
yeah.
It makes I can understand for that, like that shot there.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't know if that's enough to sue for $1 million in legal costs.
I mean,
Well,
at
like-
the end of the day, the legal thing is not going to come down to what they put the music to. It's going to
Right,
come down to
it's-
if they had permission or not. Period.
Yes.
That's what I, yeah.
If
Which
the
they
contract was
totally
signed
did.
and they
Yeah,
had
so
permission to
then-
use it, and there
At
wasn't
least that's
something
what
that they didn't
released
do
that they totally
untoward,
did.
if they paid somebody for the licenses and they used the music, then that's it. That's a wrap. Little case dismissed. So we'll see.
No, I highly doubt this is going to become anything. It's just an interesting thought that somebody from a different generation looked at something from this generation, essentially, and literally decided to sue somebody over it, like a whole company over it. So,
Hey, I mean,
he
if there's
looked
one
at-
company to sue though, ZeniMax is where it's at.
Yeah.
Dude, those guys
He-
are lawyered up as hell right now. I don't think that you should be messing with
Fair
him.
enough.
He doesn't understand.
Fair enough.
yeah. So again, like going back, he did have an agreement with Universal specifically, which is where all of his music is residing right now, and they had a deal with ZeniMax. So like everything appears to be kosher, at least on the surface of it happening
Speaking
this
of those
week.
guys
So,
getting sued, what's going on with the Oculus stuff right now?
It's done.
Uh,
Well,
yeah.
actually, no. There's a countersuit
There was- I
that
thought there
I
was-
heard
yeah.
was the last I heard because they settled, and then they felt that Facebook has way deeper pockets than they basically ponied up,
Yeah.
and so
Well, there was another suit past the $4 billion suit.
yeah, because the $4 billion suit they didn't
They didn't get
settle.
shit.
They
They
didn't
got
get $4
500
billion.
million.
Yeah,
They
and
got-
they're like, no, that's bullshit. You've got more money than that, and we feel we deserve it
Well, duh.
because we need money. So, I mean, I don't know all the details on it, but there is some sort of suit.
I thought there was an
occurring.
appeal.
That might be what it is.
I don't know.
Well, okay, let's not.
yeah, that I know nothing about. But next thing, 40,000 Steam accounts were banned
Good.
in one go. Were you not one of them? I take it.
Me? Come on. I know how to avoid the vac hammer.
Touche. One day after the Steam Summer Sale wrapped up, Valve anti-cheat (VAC) detected 40,411 accounts that were cheating, according to the Steam database, more than any other time. This being last year's October ban hammer with 15,227 accounts. That on top of this, there was an additional 4,972 accounts banned at the same time because of in-game reporting. Yeah.
So
My brother stole my account. Here's my father to prove it. Hello, I am the father.
3 kids in a trench coat. So wait, what were they doing?
It's so anytime somebody gets caught using a cheat or a hack in a game, usually that hack gets added to the registry that Valve has that they use in the Valve anti-cheat system, or VAC.
They don't ban you right away.
No, they don't.
They'll like be like, okay, this
They do
guy's cheating,
waves
and
of
they'll
shit.
hang on for a second.
Yeah.
They do
So
waves.
the reason this was a big deal is because the last time they did a massive ban, it was something like 13,000, and so this almost quadrupled the number of people in one go that they just banned
But this
all
one
these
was
people.
massive.
And to be fair, like, I think that's great because I've played in ample games where there's been that kind of shit happening, and it's frustrating.
Oh, we played one last night.
So
Oh yeah.
maybe.
Oh man.
He had
Poss-
wiped that from his mind.
Potential shenanigans. I don't know.
Potential shenanigans.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing too is I think this ties in with a lot of work that's being done on the Steam client backend because they're working on a new update they've talked about multiple times now that's going to be coming in the upcoming weeks.
So this is a safe space, right?
I mean,
They're-
maybe physically here, but them out there, maybe not.
I actually did cheat in Counter-Strike for a while because
Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
How
I never got
dare you?
caught.
Oh,
wouldn't-
that makes it okay.
I was in high school. Look,
That kind of makes it okay.
yeah. Look, I really.
So you were the stereotype. You were in high
All right,
school.
hang on.
playing
Hang on.
Counter-Strike.
What was the cheat?
That's true.
It was
Oh.
like all of them.
Did you have God
So-
mode
He
on?
was.
Were you God
I
mode?
could no clip AWP through all geometry,
Yep.
like
We-
shooting people and spawn aimbot. You're like the dude who like spawns in between the group of people and see they're like, you see the gun go flying around because it's
Yeah.
trying to lock on everybody's head.
We never got banned because it
Because
was,
VAC wasn't a thing really.
No,
then.
it was.
Was this 1.6?
Well, so my friends screwed around in before Steam and after Steam, and we
Okay.
actually got banned. My account. I went on vacation and my friend used my account. And I
Oh,
came back
sure
and,
he
Oh.
did. Sure
It
he
was my
did.
friend,
Fessing up-
officer.
Yeah.
He
I'm fessing
he
up
bought
to
this
cheating
alcohol.
right now. Why would I make that up? So that was before.
doesn't
that,
matter now?
That was with the
Because-
wand system. Somehow I don't know how he did it. I've actually never talked to him about it. I didn't put it together till years later.
It's completely
I just
written
was
him off. It was just after that cheat. Just we're not friends anymore.
No, we were- I-
completely
That man's
severing
in
the
the
ties.
New Jersey River now.
It literally took me years to be like, oh, he used my account and cheated, and then like got me banned and never told me. I was just like, oh, I went on vacation and came back. What a coincidence! I'm banned. Weird. I was not a bright kid.
Did he played with it? you
This
said?
is in the pre-collecting
That was-
Steam
that was
games
pre-Steam.
era, right?
That was
oh,
before
okay.
Steam.
This was okay.
And then after
So you got
Steam-
banned from a server.
No, my WAN ID straight up got banned.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't remember much about how all that worked, but it did happen. I couldn't play Counter
So
Strike,
you
but I did
plug
cheat.
it in somewhere else.
I did
Just
cheat
buy a new router.
post Steam as well. You could use a hex editor, and we just named it. Like we put all the cheats in. My friend did it. He used a hex editor, and I don't exactly know how all that works. And then he named the process StarCraft.exe. And all Steam did in that time was just scan your process, and it just looked for known processes that were cheat engines. And because ours was just called StarCraft,
I feel like it should have
we
just
rolled it
banned you for playing a Blizzard game.
at the same time. Yeah, right.
What is this?
But we did. We actually, it was so much worse than just cheating in a pub. We cheated in the back then what was the Cyber Athlete Amateur League. So we would go. We got bored with it, so we went into
That
matches.
sounds
But
dumb.
we didn't hide it at all.
I'm
We
talking
just,
about the
like,
league.
We would
That
shoot
league sounds
people in the head
dumb.
before they walked around a corner and stuff. Like we were so blatant that like it wasn't. We never tried to play and win with it. We would just actively troll. So that happened.
And in doing so, you'd probably win.
we were the cancer. Look,
That's
I'm
what
just
made me
trying to
stop
give you guys
playing
some-
Counter Strike. I see.
it's still a
Counter-Strike is-
problem with
See,
Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike
It's
well,
so
there's,
late.
like-
It's part of the game.
There's
Like,
new
at this-
versions
Pro
of
players get
Counter Strike that
busted now.
I will never play
Yeah.
because I'm still.
Burned.
I still not over. Yeah, I'm still not over 15 years ago when I was playing
Getting owned by
just
DJ Poop
locally.
Pants.
We weren't even
It
playing
was
on-
you.
We weren't even playing online. Like
Oh, yeah?
we were the
Oh, is this at, like,
when I was
UB?
at UB, we
Ah.
would play on the local networks, and some of the guys would
Cheaters?
cheat. There was no Steam. There was
Yeah.
that
No,
didn't
there's no
exist. It
answer,
was we
yeah.
were just playing on. We had Half-Life 1. Counter Strike was a mod,
Yeah.
and we played. And it was
Oh,
a great mod.
Punkbuster was
We
the-
played we
yeah.
played the
Punk
crap
Buster.
out of
It was
it.
Punkbuster.
And then it was
Punkbuster.
one of those things where it was just like a cancer, where it was just like, it was a ton of fun. We had like room to room rivalries going on in the dorms.
That's kinda cool.
Like we
Yeah.
would play in Spalding, and the people in Wilkinson would be like, "Fuck those guys!" Like and like the guys upstairs with us
This is
would
all
play on
within
other
Ellicott,
teams,
right?
and like and we could like walk upstairs and be like, "Fuck!" Like after like we knew where they were, we knew who they were. We could be like, "Oh fuck you, Mushhead." That was actually a guy's name was Mushhead. He was really good at the game. He wasn't cheating. He was just really good.
Yeah.
We used to be
Mushhead.
like, "Fucking Mushhead."
You're watching now.
Yeah.
I know.
And we used to play it all the time, and it was a ton of fun. It was a super good mod, and it was so much fun because we played the crap out of Half-Life and Team Fortress Classic, and we played it so much that it was like, all right, we're kind of over it. And then like Counter-Strike was like, oh shit. But one guy figured out how to like shoot people through walls, and then one guy figured out how to like run through walls and like fly, and then
no
there was no way to stop it. And then like
Yeah.
once one person did it, it's like, well,
It devolved.
it wasn't like, well, fuck this. All right, it's just one guy. But then it was like, now there's two of them doing it. Now it's like, if you don't do it, you're gonna lose. And then the game just became this thing where people were like flying around, like AWPing each other. It's like, this is not Counter Strike anymore.
Yeah.
I
This
should play
is
something else.
nonsense.
We started playing Day of Defeat actually. Day of Defeat was great.
Oh, Day of Defeat.
Day of
I
Defeat was
Counter-Strike,
like that. I
but
never
World War
played
II.
that one.
Oh, it was so good.
I heard it was really good.
Yeah.
It was really cool because it was like kind of, it was really accurate rifles, and like a couple of hits would kill you, and you could like mount machine gun. You'd be carrying like a 30 cal and like running, and you can't do anything with it. Somebody comes around the corner, you're just like, God, it's just spraying everywhere. But if you could like
1
mount it
second.
on a box
Yeah.
and get
Yeah.
set up, then it was just like a laser beam. And if somebody like ran in front of
Oh,
your line
but
of fire,
then-
you just be like,
But then you're gonna talk shit about Bastion.
dude, that's because this dude couldn't do anything, and he was so easy to direct because you had to be locked into place and you couldn't move at all. And it was, and again, all
You
all
also
the
couldn't
rifles,
heal yourself.
everything in the game, he couldn't heal himself. And every other rifle, like if I had a Garand, I could just like come around the corner and just be like, pink, and like watch his little helmet fly off and he's dead. Like all the guns in the game are very accurate and super deadly. So like it was just one of those things that it was meant to be more like as a squad thing where you would pin people down with like somebody with a machine gun. The person with a machine gun wasn't supposed to be getting all the kills. They were supposed to be like
Yeah, he's
pinning
a
down
crew
the other
serve.
team. Yeah, it should be suppressing fire, and yeah. So that was actually a great mod.
point
That
and
was like the
click
last one we
adventure.
played like a ton of. But I never went back
That's pretty
to
funny,
Counter
actually.
Strike after
I've never
everybody
heard
started
that before.
cheating.
I've sunk a few hours into CS:GO, and I've never had a problem with running into cheaters in that. The place where I have is TF2, which
Huh.
is weird to me because
That
like
is
I don't
weird.
play it competitively. I hop
Yeah.
on
That's
pubs
complete
and just,
opposite
yeah.
to me.
And
TF2
like it's
now
not
is-
often, and like TF2 is a pretty stupid game.
Yeah,
And it's like it's
not
very
even-
silly.
it's
So you
not
wouldn't
really
think it's like
about
no.
that. Yeah.
But
Hats.
occasionally, like I'll hop on a
Yeah,
server and there's
hats.
some guy playing heavy, and he's got some sort of like auto aim on, just running the minigun. So you walk around and come around a corner, and there's just this heavy just like spazzing out, having a seizure, and he's just nailing everybody. And on top of that, there's a ban system in place where you can actually pick somebody by name and vote to ban them, like kick them. But he's got another hack on that auto changes his name every 5 seconds.
Oh.
So it
That's interesting.
breaks the kick system.
But
Yeah.
isn't that part of Steam? Like, or was
We
this
could have
before that?
separate
Yeah,
name.
you can do
it's-
separate,
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
different
Okay.
layer.
That's
Man,
kind of
Yeah, it was shitty.
That's kind of poetic, like not poetic, but like
Shitty.
Shitty.
ingenious.
Shitty. Yeah.
It's,
Who would have thought? Let's just change my name. Or
well, it's
so
just
I can-
it's just ridiculous. That's just a perfect example of
Like this is trolling.
it's trolling, and it's the person who's doing it can't even really be having fun.
No.
Like they're just sitting
Yeah,
there.
it's not
Well,
that
unless
fun.
they're
it's not that fun,
No.
and they're ruining the fun for everybody else. So it's like the whole fun, like the average fun level goes down
Yeah.
across the board,
Yep.
and there's almost no reason to do it. You're not getting recognition. You're not like tricking anybody into thinking you're good. You're like, there's no positives
The
other than the fact that
weirdest-
like, hey, look at me do this
No,
thing.
it's
The
just
weirdest
unless you
thing,
get
isn't it?
genuine joy out of like annoying the shit out of other people.
Which there's assholes out there that do.
There are.
I mean,
so-
Shotgun Farmers has this problem, and it
Well,
really
yeah.
is
well,
kinda
what I'm getting at
surprising.
is like all games have this problem
Yeah.
because there's a subset of people out there that are just shit people, and
I would say
they
that's the base
and
standard.
they don't care. They just want to troll people. They just want to know that there's somebody on the other side of their screen in their sad, lonely place that's upset
Yeah.
at the thing that they did. It makes them feel like a person because they can't go outside and be a person or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, and I hate that whole stereotype, but
Tell
I
us
apply
what-
it
it's-
directly to those people because it doesn't make any other sense.
I
Yeah.
see
It
because my
makes
friend
no
thought it was
sense
funny.
to like just think like why would
Like
you
no
do
one
that?
would go do that and then hop off their computer and then go about their regular business day life, like taking care of the family,
Tell us,
playing
Greg.
ball with the kids, unless you're Greg, apparently.
I mean, South Park did like a whole like multi-episode run about trolling.
The
and
World of
whatnot.
Warcraft?
And no trolling. Where like Kyle's dad, he's like a lawyer and like he's like one of the most straight-laced guys in the show, and they made him like the most heinous internet troll like in the world, and like so anytime he's behind closed doors, he's on like message like forums like telling people to kill themselves and stuff, and he's just like the worst.
Yeah.
And everybody's just like, well, why? Like nobody can understand. But
Yeah.
why?
Yeah,
It's funny.
yeah.
You don't understand. It's funny. But they did like a multi-episode run that's actually pretty brilliant about like it becomes this whole thing that I can't even get into and I won't get into right now. But it was kind of ridiculous. Yeah.
Next thing, Metal Gear is celebrating its 30th anniversary this week. Players have been sneaking since July 13th, 1987, and to celebrate, they've been tweeting with the hashtag MG30th, which is MG30TH. There's actually been some pretty cool art put out there. But yeah, 30 years.
So I'm a pretty big Metal Gear fan.
Likewise.
And I've seen a fair amount of cool stuff online regarding this. But my favorite though, and was one I forgot. There was a thread on a forum I was visiting earlier. It was NeoGaf. They were talking about best instances in games where they reference a previous game in the series in that game, and MGS4 kept coming up a lot. And I forgot all about the sequence where you go back to Shadow Moses from Metal Gear Solid 1. And it's like, a lot of people rag on MGS4. I think it's an amazing game.
I love
and
it.
I think that whole sequence is just, it's super, super cool. Especially when you get to the part where you're supposed to change discs and then Otacon
Yeah.
yells at you. It's like,
Like,
no,
what are
it's
you doing?
Blu-ray technology. You don't
Or
have to change
do you
discs
know-
anymore.
If you turn the camera like top down, it's like Snake's just like, all right,
Yep.
now we're going again. Like all the weapons are in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
You can still get the Mark 23 under the truck, the flash. Oh, that was an amazing sequence. They did that beautifully too.
The Metal Gear games are not without their faults, but they're definitely, they
No.
are
That's
an
kind of the beauty of
experience.
them.
Yeah. I mean,
Almost.
but Metal Gear is a hard one because much in the vein of, I mean, even beyond almost any other series, like they just don't give a fuck
No.
about making sense at all. They're just like, we're gonna have a guy he fights you with bees. That's what's happening right now. What's up? And he's gonna get a fucking 3-minute opening cinematic,
Yep.
and we're gonna talk about some shit that never has been referenced before and never will be referenced ever again. And then that happens,
Oh, it's
and
so
then something
great.
else will happen. But it allows them to just like say fuck continuity for the most part. But the thing is, there's an underlying bat-shitted logic behind a lot of the stuff that they do. But it allows them to just kind of almost play the Mr. Burns card, where they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they want to have a sniper that is 1,000,000 years old? Fucking, they can do that.
Mark Zorn just subscribed. Thanks, Mark.
Oh, hell.
Whoa.
It's that guy. Yeah,
Mark.
thanks, man. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
What's up, dude?
Sorry, go on.
But it allows them to do whatever the hell they want. And so, like, nothing's out of place. They could just be like, Snake could just be on the fucking moon, and they could just say, yeah, and that's where they fight now. And
I'm surprised they never did that.
You know,
Snake in space.
it's
yeah.
and nobody would be
MGS5.
like, dude, this makes
Oh,
no
6,
sense, because
excuse me.
it's like, yeah, okay, we'll follow the rest of this twisted spaghetti logic between, because they try to make
Yo,
it like
Mark.
there's like a continuity between all the games,
The thing,
but it's so
what I
yeah.
love about the games, like, and that's a big part of it, is that they're such video gamey games. Like they are
But
so
that's the beauty of it.
self-aware of
Yeah.
what they are, and that I think that really helps them get away with whatever they want to
That's
do.
exactly how they can. They focus on making it a game 1st, and then they're like, okay, how can we tie all this together in the logic that we've set up?
It's not even really
Like-
that focused. I mean, there's definitely thought put into it, but I feel like every single one of those games, Kojima has something he wants to say, but he doesn't want to just like spell it out.
Oh,
for
all
you.
of them do.
And it's the other thing I find very interesting about these games is that it's a view on Western mentality when it comes to warfare and just general, politics and conflict, but not from someone who lives in this region. It was
Is that a
fairly far
window
removed from it, frankly.
outside looking?
So it's a cool perspective, I think. Because so many other things you've got, like, your Call of Duty and your Battlefield and all these other titles that are all about warfare and conflict, and say what you want about them, but they're all developed by Western developers. So when you've got someone from Japan who's
Battlefield's by
saying something about the same
Sweden?
kind
Yes.
of conflicts, I don't know, it's just an interesting perspective on it.
Well-
Even if it's batshit insane with, like, weird, deranged, like, sexy chicks in robot outfits.
It's
It's just like,
Japanese.
it's weird.
It's Japanese,
So,
so
It's all very weird, but I mean, I played the living hell out of the original Metal Gear, NES style, and I loved that game. Like when I first played that on original Nintendo as a kid, that game blew my mind because there just wasn't anything else like it at the time. Like there was things like Russian Attack where it was just like it's an arcade game.
Yeah.
It's just ported to home. Like almost everything was like side-scrolly, flat platformer. There was some top-down stuff and whatnot, but this had a world and a map, and it valued stealth over, like, if you shot a gun, then like an alarm would go off and like people would charge you, and it sounds so simple and so like, yeah, no crap.
yet it's
But at the
often
time-
ignored by lots of other developers.
Yeah, but at the time it was just like, holy crap, like this is insane. Like I gotta
it
figure
did
out how to
have a
deal
lot
with
of
like
bad design decisions.
each screen. Oh, dude, there's
Yeah,
you
Mark,
can't.
That's from Mark.
You
Yeah.
cannot you cannot defend that game under a modern lens as like having like brilliant design decisions throughout. There's some hot nonsense in that
They
game.
learn some shit.
AKA that forest maze. Get the fuck out of here with that forest maze. Like basically, it puts you into this labyrinth of these forest screens,
like a maze.
but it's not a maze. It's these screens. Well, it is a maze, but the screens all look the same. So you're in like picture a screen that has a path out the top, right, left, and bottom of the screen, and you have and that's it, and everything else is blocked off. It's just, so there's 4 ways out every screen,
Like the Lost Forest.
and you got to go through it, and you got to go figure out how basically which way to go out of each one, and they all look exactly the same.
That's so ridiculous.
Exactly the same,
Mhm.
and nothing in the game is like
Yeah, there's no wizened old woman living in a tree that tells you all the directions you're supposed to go.
right.
You
It's
just
not like Zelda
figure it
style
out.
where they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you
It's
gotta
unplayable.
go
Yeah.
east, go west, go north twice, and you'll get out of it. It's like no, you just gotta just keep fucking mashing at it until you get all the right things, and it's like it's brute forcing the puzzle, and it's nonsense. It's total nonsense.
what is
Without
that
a
like?
guide, you could just sit there for hours, just be like, what it's the same thing, but what? Anyway, and also the fact that it's an old 8-bit Nintendo game, so the memory resets every time you reload a screen. So if you kill enemies in a screen and you like take one step out of the screen and then go back, they're all back.
Yeah.
I'd like to look.
But your ammo doesn't come back. So if you use your
Found a way to save that.
so if you used an ammo so if you went through a room and shot everybody and then like step out and then come back, they're all there again. It's like, oh god damn it. And so there's a lot of broken things about the game.
That game was not originally for the NES though. That was an MSX release.
Well, the
I
MSX
wonder-
release is the 1987 one, for the record. That's what they're celebrating right now.
Yeah, Mark, the fucking dogs. The dogs were the worst. The dogs are brutal. They'd be on your ass. They'd murder you real quick.
Murder the.
But you had to
fuck out of
sneak
you.
up on them, and then you had to punch, punch, and they would think the spray would go up, and then disappear.
'Cause that's how you
because that's
fight
how you knock
dogs.
things out.
Yeah, is you
There was
punch
no
them.
like knocked out thing. It was just
I mean,
like
that's how I
just
do it.
punch,
Yeah, you
and then
wanna punch it,
right?
so
and then
you can
disappears.
fight him.
yeah.
I'd do it right now, but I don't want Greg to disappear.
Aw.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Apparently, you're a dog.
But anyway, like the fact that you actually had an inventory, you got like different guns, different weapons, things did different stuff. The remote control missiles, and you had to like shoot it and drive it through like a maze to like hit a switch that would turn off the electrical grid. Then you got stuff that you could go through. It was like Metroidvania, like to, before Metroidvania was like a thing. I mean, Metroid was out at the same time. Castlevania in that era was still just an arcade game. They didn't have all the adventuring stuff, and it was, based in the real world. Kind of, it wasn't like Metroid where you're flying around with wave beams.
It's a little more grounded.
Yeah, the story not so much, but the fact that actually there even was one, kind of.
Well, I think you kind of touched on this earlier. The fact that the game has a set of rules, and they're made very clear to you, and it follows those rules. And so you can kind of figure out how to work these systems, and everything kind of works together to make this whole cohesive ecosystem of a game experience that, is more than just jump on the platform and stomp on the bad guy.
Yeah.
I feel like you're not naming names there.
No, I don't have to. It's every game from 1985 ever.
This is true. But next up, EVO 2017 is this weekend. It's actually going on now, or at least the qualifying rounds, I believe, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Open pools. Yep.
The Evolution Championship Series is happening once again in Las Vegas. It is the largest collection of the fighting game community. 9 games officially will be played: Street Fighter V, Tekken 7, Guilty Gear Xrd, Rev 2, Injustice 2, Super Smash Bros., Melee, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, Blaze Blue, Central Fiction, King of Fighters 14, and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It will run from Friday, July 14th to Sunday,
It's like
July
Final Fantasy
16th.
15. It's like the same Ultimate 3.
3. BGS's own Brian Stone will be playing Tekken there. He will have qualified today at what he says 5 p.m. local time here, which is Eastern Standard. But we haven't heard from him yet.
I think he died in the game. If you die in the game in Evo,
You die
You
in
die
real
in real
life.
So that's why we haven't heard from him. But we'll let you know if he does. We'll send out tweets.
Cool.
I'm
We
sure.
were watching some of the games earlier. It's crazy, man. Just the way of watching some of these guys
They're
play.
machines.
But also, we were watching some of the Tekken stuff, and that game, beyond a lot of other ones even, like, if you know where the frames hit and how they hit, you can just straight up juggle people with certain characters, where it's like, if you land the one right hit on a guy and it gets them off their feet,
Then
you're
it's just
done.
like,
You're just going to get
You
run
just-
down, and they're going to
They
pound
just
you
juggle
across
you
the map
forever.
into the wall, and then throw you and super you, and it's over. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, holy crap. Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously, not all the fights end like that. Not all the characters can just like juggle somebody till they're dead. But
Well, I was under the impression
you
too. A lot of these tournaments, like, they ban play of certain characters for those reasons exactly.
yeah, I don't know about for the new Tekken if they have that or not.
I have no information on
But I
that.
was watching some of the fights earlier because Brian was out there, and yeah, some guy was playing like Lee or whatever, and he just got somebody off their feet, and he was like, quick step in, punch, quick step in, punch, and it was just like, and they're just keeping him in the air. Each hit took like no damage off, but it's by the time he was done, he had done it like 20 freaking times, so it just adds up. And then he has the guy against the wall, and they're playing D against it, and it's crazy. Like, one wrong move, let the other person tee off on you, and it's over.
yeah.
I'm not the biggest fighting game fan, but it is fun to watch them. I'm going to be watching the Injustice portion.
You know, I could play those games if they were just a little simpler. I mean, maybe they are now. Maybe this gen.
Certain games are.
Yeah.
Certain games are. A lot of them do really try very hard to be like easy to pick up and hard to master kind of thing. Other one, I mean, I feel like it's in as much as Street Fighter can be played by anybody. I feel like Street Fighter and like Tekken, those guys kind of really are like, we're serious, like we're hardcore. Like, this is for like, if you got to be this big to ride the ride, like if you want to play them like seriously. Other ones like Injustice and like Marvel vs. Capcom, there's mechanics in those games that are super simple to pull off. They look crazy flashy and like, holy crap, you just landed like a 40-hit combo on somebody.
Or like a giant machine
And it's-
comes in from off screen and just goes like.
Well, not even that. Like the launch mechanic in Marvel vs. Capcom is deceptively simple to actually do, and it looks crazy as hell. Like, if you're just watching the game, you don't know how it's done. And it took me a minute to like figure out how to do it. And once I learned how to do it, I was like, oh crap, like this is crazy. And so basically, you can hit one button in the game. Every character in the game has a launch move that you hit with one button. It's always the same button for every character, where if it lands, it knocks the other person up into the air. And if you hit that button, you hit the shot, and you hold up while it's landing, you will jump up into the air with the person. It'll line you up perfectly with them, and you can hit any button, and it'll throw a combo down from like that power of attack, like down like so. And what I mean is, if you throw somebody up in the air and you have like heavy, medium, soft, and then like launch again, it's like X, Y, B, A. It goes like around the controller.
Yeah.
You can do that every single time. You can go up, launch it up, and they'll be exposed to this. And you can X, Y, B, A, and then pick a direction, and you'll launch them you'll launch them again, and they can't block that. And it looks like you knock somebody up in the air, you threw some crazy multi-button combo at them, launch them into the air again, follow them up with another character. When you launch them again, you swap out, and the other person on your team tags in, and then you go X, Y, B, A, and it's the same for everybody. It works the same way every single time. You always just X, Y, B, A, go around the controller, hit it again. And you do it, and you can launch the person up for everybody on your team, bam, 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 up to the top, and then you can slam the person down, and it's like a 40-hit combo with all 3 people on your team, and it's just hitting A, and then X, Y, B, and then A in a direction.
Yeah.
And you just do that 3 times, and it looks insane. It looks like you're like some crazy-ass pro, and it's super easy to do.
Yeah.
Now, there's mechanics built into that game so that the pro, like, I play like some of the fighting game guys here, and I know how to do that. And so we're playing and whatnot, and I launch one of the guys up, and I go up, and I like combo him, and I go to launch him again, and he breaks it, and his guy comes in and starts teeing off on me, and I'm like, holy shit. And there's a whole thing in the game where if you can guess the direction that the second launch is going, like while you're taking that XYB combo and you're the person getting hit, you put in basically your guess. Like, I think he's going to hit up in A when the next launch comes, and if you guess it right, it breaks their launch and it launches them in reverse, and then you take it. And so the dudes that like play this game a lot, like they don't even fuck with that mechanic because they're like, if I get caught on the counter, like I can get jacked on that. And these guys, like, you know, they know like you're probably gonna go to the left. I know it.
Yeah.
And, then and this dude just kept breaking me, like, how do you keep guessing my shit? And he's like, yeah, it's pretty obvious. So I feel like I'm mixing it up pretty good. He's like, yeah. But I'm like, he's never used these moves on me. Is he like just going easy on me? He's like, nah, they're not that good. Like, but they are really good. They are really good against like when you're at that level, right? And they look super fun and they're super easy to do, and it makes the game a lot of fun. And when you start sussing that out, but the dudes who play it like crazy, like they'll launch and they'll throw the first combo. When it comes to like do the second one that's counterable, like they stop and then try to pull some other move, and then it's this whole other game where like, what's it gonna do? He's not gonna try to launch me. What's he gonna do instead? And they try to counter that. So they go like layers deep on their strategy. But the base game is as easy to pick up as knowing to just hit the buttons in a certain order each time. They even have a what's it called? Simple mode, where
Wow.
It's polite.
they've got a simple mode where instead of having all of your attacks, basically it takes away half the attacks that a character is capable of doing and maps their special attacks to buttons on the controller.
Wow.
So like your roll down to forward, like Hadouken kind of type move, it's just X.
That's what I'm
You have a
looking for.
Hadouken button.
Yeah, you have a Hadouken button, you've got a Shoryuken button,
Yeah.
you've got a
That's what I
Hurricane kick button. No, it has that. It has that. And so you
I
can
want to play this.
And I've played Marvel vs. Capcom against people that have never played a fighting game before and just set them to simple, and they can just like kind of mash the buttons, and it looks like they're throwing all the super moves and doing crazy stuff.
I'm
so it's fun.
playing, Dad.
Yeah, kind of.
Yes, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
Final Fantasy 14 Online is getting DDoS'd into the Stone Age.
Say what?
Yeah,
Isn't that where it like came from? Like, when was the last time we talked about? When was the last time anybody talked about Final Fantasy 14?
online.
I mean, I've been talking. Arsenio plays it. He was trying to get
Oh,
me
yeah?
to play it. We were talking about it the other day.
Is this the one that had the housing crisis recently?
I don't know.
Okay.
What?
I think it might be the one
Or
where
was
it's,
that? No, that was 12.
12's
no,
off.
12 is not online.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
I liked 12 a lot.
Okay.
That's a single player one. I refuse to play the MMOs.
You're thinking of 11.
11 is what I'm thinking
yes.
of. Thank you.
Where
Yeah.
the people bought up like a continent's worth of
Yes.
houses.
Yeah.
And now nobody
And
can buy a house.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And
That's
they won't,
kind
they,
of awesome.
They won't sell it back, and people are all like mad about this. It's like, why don't you just go buy a real house?
That's kind
Well-
of awesome, though. That's trolling on an absurd
Well, it turned into this
economic
whole
level.
other like class warfare in
Yeah,
the game thing
they
where
got-
people like these elites own all the property.
Yep.
everybody should have the right to property, and they're like, bull crap. We earned the guild in game to buy it,
See, yeah,
and so
this is
we
the-
own it.
See,
you know?
that's
the
kind of
best.
fun trolling though, because that's like, wow, that's a social experiment right there.
Well,
like you get
see,
to
this
see.
is the stuff. This is like Eve Online. Like, I don't want to play Eve Online, but I do want to hear the
Hear about
stories,
the stories about it, yeah,
Eve
right.
Online.
But so the attacks have been happening since June. The game was released, I believe, late May, early June. Square, the developer of the game, states they're becoming harder to beat each time, destroying their servers. They use the word crippling. DDoS attacks are when an individual or group sends a large amount of data at one target in order to clog the servers of the site or place.
Tubes are clogged.
They're incredibly
tubes.
easy to pull off and are difficult to stop, making it a top pick tool for hacker groups. Square is now working with quote unquote top tier internet service providers to find a solution.
Top men.
Top men. I
best
thought the
men on it.
exact same thing when I read that. Like that's an actual quote from Square. It's like, oh, there's top men. Who? Top
Carting
men.
the servers away into a room full of crates.
But
That's-
Jeez.
I mean, I
I
don't
mean,
know what you
Why
can
would
do
you
to
why would you DDoS an MMORPG?
because people are assholes.
Because
For
the
that
theme
sentence
of
right there,
tonight,
I would do it.
the theme of tonight has been trolling. I don't know if you noticed that.
That's, you got
They're
your
watching
name.
this. They heard me say that. They're like, "We did it.
Yeah.
We did it. Somebody said it.
All right, call it off, guys.
Somebody said a whole sentence that was comprised of individual letters."
You DDoS and MMORPG.
Fuck you guys.
That's it.
Watch the cable, please.
Are you really just getting another beer?
Give me one.
This is the last
Um,
topic, though. We're taking a break after this.
I don't know, man. Like
The
DDoS is not an uncommon thing. Like lots of services get hit by this.
I'm
So
surprised you can still DDoS in this.
Well,
thing.
'cause
Like,
it's
you
such
think
a-
we
it's
would've
such a
solved
s-
that problem.
it's such a simple thing to do. Well, it's
Yeah.
the reason why it works, at least to my understanding, is that because we are using the internet in ways it was not built to be used. Like the internet as a whole is made out of bubblegum and duct tape in the worst way imaginable. Like
Not
so
wrong.
there's a reason
yeah.
why this happens all the time, and I think that's it. It's very easy just to set up a bunch of machines to all target hits on one particular IP or set of IP addresses that just spam the hell out of it, confuse it, and make it crash.
Yeah.
Because it's not built to handle that.
It'll always be that, though. I mean, I don't think there's any technology that'll be ever.
I think peer-to-peer networks can solve that problem.
So
Yeah, I think that
yeah, actually, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, the
because there's
distributed computing stuff,
yeah,
like the
a
blockchain
distributed
stuff.
network is
Yeah.
not you're not going to have that kind of an issue. You
Yeah.
can't have those surges because like what are you going to do? Attack every computer on
You'd
Earth
have
all
to
at once?
DDoS
Yeah,
a lot
like
of computers at once. Yeah, but anyways, let's not. Yeah, that's a little.
don't give them ideas.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the whatever group is doing it has not said anything. They don't. This is just happening, which is why it's probably also just as frustrating.
It
'Cause it's
doesn't
like they
matter
can't-
what group though, because it's the
It-
internet. They're gonna come out and be like, "Yeah, it
While
was
that's
anonymous,
true-
and we did it for the
While
lulz."
that's
you
true,
know?
One guy has to say that. For
Yeah.
it to be,
That's not the point. The point is the customers don't have a reason to put why their servers are crashing constantly. At least normally they would have a group that they could label like they're the bad guys, they're the reason why. As such, I can go with the game. Problem is now is since there's nothing, the game is just crashing constantly for I mean, they know why, but since there's nothing to put that blame on,
think-
it goes to Square.
I think the reason, well, I mean, I don't know. I was gonna say I think SquareSoft coming out. Is it SquareSoft? Is it
Sure.
Square? What I don't know.
Well,
what
I'm
they're
just
called.
saying
Square
Square.
Enix.
Oh,
It's
Square Enix.
is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it's Square Enix.
I think I personally would feel that them coming out and saying yes, we're being DDoSed. This is why the game is going down. I feel like that, like, while it doesn't make it any better, it is an explanation that's valid. It isn't just like,
It's
well,
true.
we fired our networking guy because he was a bum. Like that's whatever. That's not it. It's they're being attacked from an outside source.
Damn
I
it,
don't think that
Steve.
attaching a name to it would necessarily make things any better.
I would agree with you if it wasn't for that's what everybody's saying online.
Yeah. So that's the thing is
And unfortunately,
Yeah.
vote majority there. That's all we have to go on in this particular situation,
Yeah.
which sucks. But what are you gonna do? Well, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back for the main topic of tonight, which is I actually had to do research for this one. So I had to wait.
Wow.
Wait. I had to read.
Oh my god.
I know it was
Like
terrible.
words
Like real
made
words.
comprising of letters,
Yes. It was bad.
consonants,
It
and
was terrible.
vowels,
It was so terrible.
strung
I'd
together
rather- I'd rather
using-
not talk about it. Okay.
grammar.
I'd rather not talk about it. Okay. It was bad. But we'll be back in a few minutes with that.
Oh shit! It's a
Frank,
bug.
and we're back. Hello. We swapped out Greg for Jess.
No, Greg just shaved.
We received an upgrade. So, whew, okay. So
Yes, you said something about research.
what I'm going to tell you, for the most part, I try to just give you guys data and information and let you do with that what you will, right? And I'll chime in with my opinion, but for the most part, that's what it is, right? I'm going to try very hard to do the same thing for this one. All right?
Uh-oh.
This is directly targeted at me in my demographic, so let's just see how it goes. I'm trying really hard,
Fucking kids, man.
right? Right? Okay.
Are
Whippersnappers.
you on my lawn again?
Oh no.
Research has shown
Old
kids
man-
are on my lawn again.
Old man Futch gets out the
Old
shotgun.
man yells at cloud.
All right. A report was released. I'm just going to blow through this, by the way,
'Kay.
and then we will talk about there. A report was released by the National Bureau of Economic Research called The Leisure, Luxuries, and the Labor Supply of Young
I
Men.
already know where this is going.
hmm In it, they discuss the declining job market for young men and the rapid growth of video game play in that same demographic. While the report gives a few possible reasons on why this could be happening, it mostly just supplies data on this situation. So the report itself, just this is what numbers we found. Okay, it's given a couple possibilities, but for the most part, it doesn't say this is the one or this is the one over and over. I lost my spot. News sites, specifically NBC, Vox, and Wall Street Journal has an article, but since you need a subscription, I can only see the first paragraph, so I don't know exactly what they said.
Ad blocker, yo.
I do have ad blocker. It doesn't. You need a subscription. You need to sign in.
Then they ask you to turn off your ad blocker.
Yeah. A few examples, they have written articles on the report. So this is not about the report. This is about the news talking about the report. All of them were flavored that games were influencing men to, quote unquote, leave the workforce. To go into the world, with NBC is the one I'm going to talk about the most here, having one of its sections titled be literally World of Warcraft versus earning a living. That same article has a quote from Colin Slattery, a 28-year-old in New York. He says that he used to be a quote-unquote hardcore gamer and played more than 50 hours a week in WoW. And that he said it was a quote-unquote addiction. It was
Did he
cheap.
go to a reform camp where they made him all better? And
Turn it off.
Let me finish first. It was cheap and fun and status he felt he didn't have. That's the article paraphrasing him. That's not a quote for the record. To its credit, the article also quoted Michael Matowitz, an economist, at the Center for American Progress, saying, "When you're unemployed and just sending out resumes and maybe going on a couple interviews, but constantly facing some form of rejection, you need to find some other outlet to help stay sane. If video games are helping people do that over this recession, which is the crux of what this paper is building on," he's one of the writers, by the way, "that may be a really good thing." So he's basically saying, like, if it's helping people get by, then who gives a shit? Right? Let her rip.
lazy fucking journalists.
This is garbage.
Yeah.
I love it.
Like-
I knew this was going to happen.
No, this is hot garbage. This is like people who can't find work find ways to spend day.
Yeah.
News at 11.
Someone bored did something to feign, it's like,
Why?
Like,
That's a great line.
If they were reading
Did
books
they
all day,
also-
would the books discourage them?
right.
From
Did
going
they
to work?
also have correlating data that they watched a shit ton of Netflix and read books?
I
and
binge watched
there's
Game
gotta
of
be.
Thrones, and that's why I'm
I-
unemployed.
Is there? Like,
So
does
I
this
did not read the entire 61-page report. I'm sorry to say. I apologize.
you said you did research.
But did the
You
report?
said you read.
I read at least 45 pages of it. I'm sorry, and 4 articles on
Did
this.
they at any point collect data on other things that the people did with their day? If they focus specifically
Yes,
on
they did.
video games,
No,
then-
they did general broad base of, I believe, is what the term they used was leisure luxuries. For it, there's several in the appendix area. There's several graphs, and you can, if you just want to go through the data and see it from there. But yeah, like so they do other things, but the reason why this was so huge was to the. I don't want to pick sides. You guys go. I'm trying to stay out of this as much as possible because this is like me they're discussing, basically.
I don't even think there's sides. I think it's just
Yeah.
nonsense. I think
Yeah.
that it sounds like the people who even did the research and wrote the paper had no direct judgment on the use of the leisure time. They were basically recording the
Criticizing.
fact that
They weren't. They were just giving numbers of
They-
just
yeah, they said
general purpose.
Yeah.
this number of people are unemployed. This number of people that are unemployed are playing, X amount of hours in video games. It might also say they did X number of hours in something else.
They did.
And something else. They did.
There's
so,
several
again, so the issue
pieces.
is probably then, again, going back to the journalists that just found the hot, sexy pieces and then put all that together to, put out a clickbait article.
I want to put a direct correlation between video games and unemployment, which is
It's an easy target.
it
a very
is,
easy
but
target.
it's garbage because anyone
Yeah.
who's unemployed is bored, and anyone who's bored is going to find something to occupy themselves with.
yeah, it's
Like, it's-
Yeah.
there's nothing here. I mean, there really isn't. Like, this is gonna come and go. Like, it's nonsense.
It's a slow news
It's
week.
clickbait.
Yeah.
It's
The thing is,
hey,
it really
are you
wasn't.
No, it wasn't. But
That's the thing.
That's
this sounds like the crap that you'd see
baby?
based on like we're just marketing this to people that don't know what this thing is.
I feel
So
like
they
this
want-
is the article that wound up on the website, but it was also one of the select few that made it into the print paper as well.
I don't
you
know.
know, like
don't
just,
know
I'm
about
thinking
that.
about demographic that would be reading this and being like, oh, I'm shocked. I tell you, like
These kids, they're just sitting around. I know my nephew, he just plays Call of Duty all day. That's all.
When
the
I
kid
was
does.
his age-
he doesn't want a job. Well,
I walked uphill both ways with 4 pounds of potatoes on my back, and I cleaned every toilet bowl in the entire state with a toothbrush.
yeah, and I think
It's
it's
just like,
the thing
fuck
is,
off.
it's like pretty well established that the ability to get these jobs and like actually find recurring, consistent work is the problem,
Yeah.
right? It's not that people are playing video games because they chose that over finding a job. It's they couldn't find a job, so now they do other things because they're not working. Like, I think the same thing happened back in like the 20s when nobody had jobs and like bars were booming because they all just were drinking all day because they didn't have video games.
well, it's like
So
that.
they
Or
just
like
got
these
drunk all
kids
day 'cause they
and
weren't
their
working.
damn record players and AM radios. Like,
Yeah, it was the same. It's
the thing too is like people who write these articles, I think forget that when you're unemployed and looking for work, it's fucking depressing
You need to get
and it's
batteries.
hard, especially now.
right back.
It is hard to find work. So, what's the best form of escapism right now that's easily accessible by anybody? Go and play a video
Usually
game.
video games.
So, yes, unemployed people are playing video games.
And
Shocking.
saying this off mic, but video games offer the highest time of entertainment per dollar spent than any other entertainment medium. So if you have a shit ton of time and you have no money,
In case anybody couldn't hear that, Futch was summing it up as basically you get the biggest return on investment when it comes to playing video games and getting your entertainment value for the money you spend.
I think it's also, it sounds like one of those arbitrary articles that they just want to pop up on someone's Facebook feed and create some sort of ridiculous debate just to get a number of shares or,
They just
it's
want to get a bunch of people on a podcast just ranting
Yes.
about
pissed off about it.
this craziness.
This is what makes me happy. Is I literally this is why I love this show. I just drop something and then just step back. Let's just see what
It's
happens.
bullshit.
It's- Honestly, the most thing I found surprising about this, because I heard about this a few days ago when it hit,
This did.
is the fact that it actually happened. Like the fact that these articles got out. Like I thought we were over this. I thought we were past it. I
That's
thought there was
kinda
more
the thing
important
with
things
me
to
a little
talk
bit.
about. And
Yeah.
suddenly, video games again are in the news for being the bad guys.
Like out of everything, that's what kind of piqued my interest on it. Was like it felt like a harkening back to like if it had been.
Well, it's like you get nostalgia in games, and you get these indie pixel art games. You get nostalgia in journalism, and you just really want another one of those '90s thought pieces about how Doom is so terrible for everyone.
Is that a thought piece? Really? I will say that while I could not read the Wall Street Journal article too heavily, what you can read is not great. I'm reading it straight up. America's young men are increasingly giving up on work in order to slay virtual aliens and fight video game wars. New research suggests. That's the first line.
New
Video games might
research
be keeping
suggests.
young men out of the workforce is the headline. Like, that's the article title.
And that's 90% of the people that.
That's all they read.
That's all they're gonna read. Yeah.
So
Well, the thing is, again, you can't.
because they're
yeah,
like
there's
me and
that.
they don't have a subscription to Wall Street Journal.
Right.
That's legitimately, yeah.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like,
they're
that's all they're
see
going
that
to see.
headline,
And that still pops up on Google.
And that
Yeah.
headline is enough to cause high and heated discussion between.
To be fair, that's
people.
really good writing, though. Is like, that's how are we going to fire them up in one
I don't know
sentence?
if good is the right
No,
word.
That's terrible writing.
Tactical.
Yeah, okay, fine. Strategic is all hell.
It's
like,
targeted marketing.
How do I get
It's deceptive.
the
yes.
most fire
It's
built
nonsense.
up in literally one sentence?
Yeah.
So I'll give him credit there. Like, you freaking nailed it, man. Like, it's just, all right. See, I'm happy with this. I'm happy
I'm
with
just
how this turned out.
annoyed.
Yeah,
that
this is-
it even happened. There are people even.
Like,
I'm
alright.
sure this is going to come and go because nobody who's actually does scholarly research is going to look at the headline and be like, "Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
let's factor that into my decision making." It's like, no.
Yeah.
Anybody
No.
who actually does the research knows what's actually in the paper. And from everything what I've just heard from you and from what just I know
From
generally
you.
from living is that it's not the problem.
Jesus.
Straight up. I mean, just call it what it is. It's total nonsense. It's the same shit that people said about rock and roll and comic books and drinking alcohol and anything going back to forever that whatever their parents didn't do that the kids are doing, they don't want them to do it, and they want any excuse to try to feel superior. And so it's not that these kids can't find work, it's because they're doing other stuff that you don't understand.
Yep.
And we should hate them for it or whatever. As opposed to the
You've
fact
got a
that
couple good lines going tonight.
nobody is offering these kids work at a reasonable rate. And then they turn around and complain how these cottage industries are going out of business because millennials won't buy stuff. They don't have any money. They don't have good paying jobs. You refuse to give them a wage and then complain that they don't spend money.
I was
Yeah.
This
I was,
is
I was
you
reading the other day.
don't know what you're talking about.
There's a few states looking at actually lowering the minimum wage right now in a few regions because it's just, who needs to live?
Jesus.
like-
All the jewelry stores are going out of business in my area, and it's a goddamn shame.
There was one I was reading the other day. It was like people were legitimately mad that like fucking Applebee's was losing money because kids today aren't going and eating out on their lunch. And it's like, no shit, they're not eating out on their lunch because either they can't fucking afford it or they're busting their asses trying to get a job or doing real fucking work to eat your shitty fucking microwave food. Like,
Mark Zorin says, if you can only eat out once a week, who the fuck is going to Applebee's?
right?
Thank you, Mark.
Seriously.
That was,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's this is like you said, it's people getting scared and writing shit about things that people don't know anything about because
Well, because if they wrote the article and said, kids these days aren't getting jobs because they're reading comic books instead, the people who are old enough to be tricked by these bullshit articles about video games have already been through the shit about comic books and they know that's bullshit, and they're just like, yeah, that's not a problem.
yeah.
But they can still pull this because video games are still new enough.
Yeah.
And
There's always going to be something. There's always going to be some sort of media or entertainment or some sort of something that's cool and hip that
It's easy to roll over on video games too because as the years go on, they become more and more realistic, and that becomes the argument that they're becoming so real that people are.
But they
How
use
cool
the
is your
same
world.
clip from Doom 2
Yeah.
still in
Yeah.
2017.
Look at how violent this 16-bit game is, or whatever.
I feel like I did my job tonight.
Yeah.
Could you, yeah, oh,
Stirred
never
the
mind.
pot.
That felt good. I do have a couple things that I wrote. I've been watching The West Wing, so bear with me.
walking in hallways.
The show. Is post hoc ergo propter hoc, millennial talk. So is after this, therefore because of this. I feel like that is absolutely what this is. It's like, okay, we have this polling data, and we have this end result of them not having jobs. Well, obviously it's because of that. Like, no, that's actually the opposite.
What's the saying? Is correlation is not causation? Or is it
Exactly.
the other way
Yeah.
around? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the first one.
Oh shit!
we have a
Mark
call.
in.
in.
Wild mark
Oh,
appears.
shit. I heard the
Marky
West
Mark.
Wing. I've seen the West Wing like 8
Really?
times.
I'm
in
still on season
completion.
3 right now.
It's a great show.
I'm making my way through it finally.
Is it worth watching?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy it. I
It's
I
the
love show
president
like
you
that.
wish you had,
Mm.
He
especially in this day and age.
Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
I love Martin Sheen. He's one of my favorite actors, and he kills it.
Have you seen Spawn?
Yes.
Because I watched it recently and I
Yeah.
forgot he was in it.
He's oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh.
he's
Don't
the bad
watch
guy.
Spawn.
Spawn's
No.
not good.
It's on Netflix. Don't watch,
Watch
it.
the HBO cartoon.
That I need to see. That's on Amazon Prime.
it is.
Watch that.
It is.
But yes, my final note on it is there's a lot of buzzwords. Since I didn't read the actual article to you, there's a couple things. Addiction is obviously one that I did state. Basement Dweller was legitimately dropped. And
That's unbelievable.
I used to
There-
live in a basement.
there was a link to a quote-unquote related article where it just dropped something too. Millennials are finding it hard to adult.
Everyone finds it hard to adult.
Yeah. Adulting is no fun.
Most adults aren't very good at adulting.
It's true.
And
Trust
most
me.
of them
I'm
aren't
fairly
millennials.
certain most of the people who wrote these articles aren't very good at adulting
No,
either.
It doesn't
Yes.
seem like, especially using words like
Also,
basement dweller.
Those 3 things you just rattled off, without mentioning anything else, I'd think you were talking about like the opioid epidemic,
Yeah.
like something that's actually a problem.
Yeah.
You know. So, yeah, video games are trash. I don't. Whatever.
Everything's
Yeah.
trash.
What are people
Yep.
supposed to take from
all,
that article?
all the young people are worse
Fuck
than the
video
last
games?
young
That's exactly what
people.
you're
Yep.
supposed to take from that article.
When I
Again-
hear these things, I love to think about like, what am I gonna get mad about like 40 years from now about
Right.
what the kids are doing? Like, I don't know, huffing their PlayStation 9s and like,
Jesus.
you know,
A
whatever.
very different strategy Sony's going to take in the
Cruising
future.
their
It's just gonna- it's
hoverboards
gonna
over
be-
my car.
It's gonna be hip hop.
You think so?
Yeah.
It's always hip hop.
To be fair, it is always music. He's not wrong.
It's in their music
It's like
these
it's gonna be
days.
like rogue violinists or some shit,
Yeah.
like setting up like gang quintets.
In my day,
and just
I
like
listened to fucking progressive metal. What is this classical bullshit?
My dad would love that. Anyway. So, any final thoughts on this madness? This is exactly how I expected this to go, for the record.
I have a lot of
So-
thoughts on a lot
You
of the
could
things you
you
mentioned in that
could
article.
replace video game with almost anything
Yeah.
in that quote unquote study.
Can you
and
scoot
have
over
the
just a
same
little bit?
exact results.
Thank you.
The fact
Uh,
that someone is human means that they can get addicted to anything, literally anything.
There's
Any
a
activity.
pothead somewhere going, you can't get addicted to weed.
Yeah. Some
You're
people
not
just
physically addicted to it.
addiction. That word just bothers me when it comes to something like that. It's
I mean, there are legit addictions.
Of
people,
course there are. I'm
People
just saying
die in whatchamacallums, internet cafes from
Mhm.
playing
yeah,
games
just
for
from like
3
sleep
straight
deprivation
days
or
and
starving to
everything.
I can't
death. or-
imagine
just
that.
my argument isn't
Yeah.
that there. Of course, I believe there is addiction. It's not that. It's just that addiction being brought up in an article. What bothers me is that they're trying to correlate it with playing video games in general. Are they just talking about people that are addicted to video games, or are they talking about
They do
all
an
of the
excellent
unemployed
job
people?
not saying.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like they're dodging,
Or you just
be
didn't read it.
precise.
I did read it because it is
I know.
right her. I scrambled to read it, mind you, but I did read it, and I took notes.
Because people who are addicted to video games, I'm sure, have a very hard job getting employment, but that's not what the article states.
Well, they do bring up the individual. What was his name? Colin Slatter. He is a 28-year-old who he became an entrepreneur, and he did state that after he stopped seeing WoW, which for the record, I think he only brought up WoW as an example, but they kind of insinuate that was his
It's the
drip
easiest
feed.
example to bring
Yes.
in.
It's everybody knows World of Warcraft.
It's been around forever.
Yeah. But he says that after he stopped doing the video game, that he was able to focus on his quote-unquote life.
And that's understandable for a game like that too, because I
Yes.
think that even as someone who still dabbles
Say
in
that
it,
about anything.
brings
Yeah.
it brings in false validation. Like when you kill a boss, when you earn, like when you get a piece of gear, when you like, there's just these short little bursts of enjoyment that I think are kind of.
Well, it's
If I didn't know what you're talking about, I just think you're talking about porn.
that actually, yeah, like that. But the thing is, like, that's
Yeah.
there are certain
I mean,
things that
it's
people
the
do
same
that
thing.
elicit a certain feeling in your head. It's like eating chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it elicits a certain emotion, a
It-
chemical reaction
your
happens in your brain, and it makes you
endorphins.
feel a little. It feels good, you know.
Yeah.
But every time you do it, and drugs are the exact same thing, you know. It's just you do it more and more, and it gets a little less
Less
and less
effect,
good. So you got to
less
do
effect.
more and more and more and more of it.
Yeah.
And again, like they target video games in this, but it happens with literally anything.
Yep.
So, yes, things are bad. Everybody just stop living, and all these problems will go away.
On it.
Everything in moderation.
If you like soda and it brings you happiness, stop.
Yeah, you
Don't
stop
like
for
soda.
you stop for a month and then come back
Take
to
it
it.
away.
It's just gonna be
Yeah.
that much better.
What I find frustrating about that too is like I quit playing WoW and suddenly I'm a multi-millionaire entrepreneur. It's like
Like,
fuck
there's
off! Like there's no in
there's no
between. It's just
correlation.
you just shut off your machine, you quit connecting to the servers, and suddenly you've got a a massive company. No, there's some steps you skipped along the way there. I think that you
Yeah.
meant to cover and didn't. Like there's more to it than that.
Simply quitting a game is not going to make you a success.
So I'll go back to what I said before: lazy fucking journalists. It's
It is.
shitty journalism. That's all it is. And I feel like I've given it more time and thought than it warrants.
I wish I had
I'm
time
okay
to
with
play
it.
more video games.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I'm too busy working to actually get any time to play any games.
But
65
you're also not the demographic they're discussing, I believe.
it's
human beings,
Technically speaking,
Uh,
I am a
younger
millennial.
males.
I'm at the right at the.
I don't
ed-
know
the
if they actually
borderline.
do
It
state
says male.
it. Well, yeah, I got that
What is
part,
it?
but
What is it?
who?
Does it have an age range?
So
21
it's-
through 30.
So it surprises me
Yeah,
because what
I'm almost a fringe
I'm at
case,
the
but
outset
yeah.
of
Yeah.
that,
It,
but
it says between 2000 and 2015 market hour. Okay, so this is where they. This is the part that they were specifically pulling. Between 2000 and
you
2015,
can have your seat back if you want.
2015, market hours worked fell by 12% for younger men ages 21
Wait,
through 30.
what were those years again?
2000 through 2015.
15 years.
So, also a period where we were in some serious economic
Economic
decline.
decline.
Yeah.
Hold on. Compared to a deadline of just over 8% for men ages 31 through 55. These
Right.
declines started prior to the Great Recession, accelerated sharply during the recession, and have rebounded only modestly since.
So,
People who've been in industry for 10 years kept their jobs longer than people who've been in industry for 2 years. Go fucking
What?
figure. Doesn't take a fucking rocket scientist to explain this.
Yeah.
Someone just came out of college and can't find a job compared to, like,
Yeah.
I've been doing my job now for over 10 years. It's going to be easier for me to keep or find a new one than it is for someone coming out of college,
And I-
regardless.
I
of
don't
the-
want to be that guy, but like, what are unemployed women doing?
This is also
women
a-
don't have jobs.
And women don't play video games, so I mean,
Frankly, I don't care about them.
Oh,
They're not my demographic.
if it doesn't directly relate to you, they're off getting their nails painted and stuff.
another intriguing thing about this for me is they specifically found like, okay, who's the most gamer of the demographic, and let's talk about how they're gamers.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
that's
basically-
somewhat stereotypical, though, too.
Also
because
that.
it's- they're. I don't have numbers in front of me, but I don't think they are necessarily
But who is, according to Joe Schmo, who's just looking at
Sure.
headlines?
The
Yeah.
whole
Joe
article,
Basement Dweller.
Yeah, Joe Basement Dweller, who also happens to live in a basement, but he's not one of them.
But
The whole study
It's
is
not his fault.
based on stereotypes.
Yeah.
21 to 30-year-old male, basement dweller,
Mm-hmm.
and what were the other?
The basement
buzzwords
dweller
there?
part was the article. That was not.
That was
Okay.
a
It's
poor
not part of the
study.
study. Okay.
This isn't what I told you about the buzzwords was entirely in the article.
Well, yeah, because nobody's going to read the study because it's full of like facts and numbers, and who
To be
wants
fair,
to read
it
that?
was hard to read.
Of course, it
Oh,
is.
it's
Which
It was
is-
really
it's a-
dry.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Like, man,
It's like reading a medical
It's just-
journal.
it's a-
Nothing's fun about that.
Yeah, it's
It
a
was-
research
I read
paper,
medical
but it's not
journals, at
supposed
least,
to
are
be
kinda
fun.
fun.
It's supposed
Yeah.
to be informational. You want fun?
Yeah.
You play a video game.
Yeah.
You know. You want to get educated? You read a research paper.
Going
Like-
through the parts of the journal or parts of the report that were actually referenced. Again, I'm only doing the NBC News, but however, from the other articles I did look at, it's the same shit. Like the same points are hit on each one, but they literally, the part that I just read to you was quoted in pretty much all of them. I don't, again, Wall Street Journal, I don't know. To be fair, I'm giving them to be fair. But that introduction where most of them discussed was page 2. And I think the most information after that was page 4, because I actually highlighted that. That is as far as any of the drops that they made in the actual articles went. After that, they took their own turn on it.
No, all right. We could give them the benefit of the doubt and say they went further into it, further on in the articles, and you couldn't see that because it's behind a paywall. I'm not going to do that. I think that,
Because some
again,
of them aren't.
just going by the buzzwordiness of the headlines of these, the clickbaity kind of sound of them, they just went through this paper, went through the first few pages, picked a select few key things they thought sounded interesting, and reported on that because they know the people that are actually going to read these articles and think they actually hold anything aren't going to read the research paper. They're not going to read the journal. They're just going to take what they get out of this article at face value and just believe it. So it's smart, it's shitty, but it's an efficient way to write a piece.
Yeah.
Especially if you're working on a clickbait kind of demographic or business plan.
Anything else?
I can't debate that.
So who gives a fuck about WoW anymore?
Yeah.
I like that it's still a thing. I
Yeah.
find that fascinating.
It's fascinating that it's still a thing, but it's
I think it's more of a thing with people who don't know better at this point.
Well,
Yeah.
it's kind of like how Greg was saying about like EVE Online. Like, I don't want to play WoW, but I like hearing about it. You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
EVE Online sounds like much
It's
much
work.
more than
Oh yeah.
WoW.
It's a
No,
legit
I
job.
totally agree with that. Yeah.
I still
That's
have
why
my
I'd
WoW
want to hear about it.
subscription.
But
But the thing is, at this point, when I log on to it, it's because I have nothing in the world left to do. Like, and it's also because they cater so much to someone like me who doesn't log on anymore. Like, my life is not about raiding and playing umpteen hours. a
Oh,
week
that's
and-
funny that you mentioned that because in this NBC article.
Oh boy.
Uh,
These
I don't-
kids, they do something called raids.
I don't dedicate
let's see here. Where is
blocks
that
of
part?
time to that game anymore.
Right.
Where I used to
Oh, damn,
years
where was
ago
it?
because that's just what interested me, and I didn't really play any other games besides that. Now I can get on, play for 15 minutes, and be at the same level
Ah.
as people that play for
Mhm.
40 hours a week.
Sure.
So, what incentive do I have to sit down for 4 hours in one night
I'd
and
just
do
like
content?
like to say,
Are you gonna read the part I was gonna read?
no, I was gonna say the basement dweller part was the guy talking about who used to play all these games, calling himself that.
Yes.
So just
Okay.
this for in defense of the person who did write the
Okay.
article.
All right.
I
All
didn't.
right.
He says I didn't aspire to be a basement dweller.
However,
Alright, well,
that's
I
the-
wasn't aware of that
however,
version of it.
Yeah, I'm
That
just
is
saying.
also them taking only those two words out of,
Yeah,
or then
but
the
that's-
quotes. So who knows what he actually said?
Yeah,
Well, they're
whatever.
selling it by using
Saying the
that
words
portion.
basement dweller.
Yeah.
What I'm
Yeah.
going to talk about with this is also from the guy. This is pretty much entirely. Yeah, $15 a month is what a World of Warcraft subscription costs, and it can provide you with 200 plus hours of entertainment a month. What Futch said. Said Slattery. It gives you a sense of camaraderie and a sense of accomplishment. You may not be successful in real life, but if you're a hardcore raider on your World of Warcraft server with hundreds of thousands of people looking up to you and your in-game success, you feel important, have the respect and admiration of tons of people. I don't know what he's talking
Man,
about on
I
that
want
one.
to play that.
This
game.
dude is apparently
Wow.
like the
Really?
best World of Warcraft player of all time.
Like I thought WoW sucked, but I used to play other MMOs. I was in a guild that like we crushed people in RVR
Yeah.
and PvP.
Did you have
And-
hundreds of thousands of people looking up to
No,
you?
but like
That is a
we
direct
got
quote.
we got respect like
I-
when we were in the area basically,
Yeah.
and it was
And
because
I think that the article going out of its way to like shit talk that is ridiculous because
But again,
it's
this
something
is the
people
guy-
strive for.
Yeah, but
Like,
this is also the
this
quote
not
that they
someone-
chose to
this
use.
not someone shit talking it though.
That's the quote that he
this is
chose to
the-
use.
This is
This is
the
the guy. Okay,
saying,
all right,
like,
okay.
This
Alright.
is why I played the game.
Sure.
Like,
And they also chose that particular guy to interview.
On a much
Yeah,
smaller
but-
scale.
So
I don't see that as shit talking at all though. Like,
it doesn't, and I see the satisfaction you can get, and this isn't until like gosh, the last time I thought this way was in like 2010, and I only know this because I grinded my way to something called Gladiator and WoW, which took a lot of time, a lot of effort. At the same time, I was raiding with this Chinese guild that was insane. We raided 6 days a week. I definitely grew out of that, but
I don't know.
well, it's not that I grew out of it as much as I had to work full time and I had my daughter to take care of, so it just wasn't a priority to me. But everyone on the server, which was not hundreds of thousands of people, I could go out in the environment and not get killed by the opposite faction, for instance, or I could stand in the middle of the city and people would be like, "Oh, your gear is so amazing. Where did you get that? How do you have that title?" So like, what he says isn't completely untrue.
I mean, Necrodancer DLC came out 2 days ago. I currently have like a top 10 in the world speedrun time on one of them. That's probably not going to last, but like,
not
it makes
anymore.
you feel not
Yeah.
bad. Like,
It gives you a sense of satisfaction,
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, I'm sure that's going to get crushed soon because I'm not actually that good at game.
I mean, it boils down to being able to do something that other people cannot or have not,
Yeah.
cannot do or have not done, and it gives you a sense of being, kind of special. And like, by all rights, it probably should because it's something unique and interesting, and it's something you actually work towards, be it real or virtual. So I guess I'm going down that rabbit hole of them shit talking it again when they probably weren't, but.
It's just another thing about what people find to give themselves joy. If you get satisfaction from that, or you get satisfaction from literally anything else, just let people
Like
do
heroin.
what they want to do.
Life is short and you're
Yeah,
gonna
like
die.
heroin. Thank
Do what you
Do
like.
heroin. I think all drugs should be legal. But that's neither here nor there.
Help with natural selection, that's for sure.
Are we good?
People are gonna get it anyway.
We
Yeah.
good?
I think so.
Okay. I'm pleased with that. Dale Mill.
Oh no.
This is in reference to the Half-Life update that we mentioned
Dale.
before.
Stop it.
One area that a big studio can outperform a small independent studio is support after launch. Take this to the extreme case of Half-Life. How long after a release should a studio be reasonably expected to provide updates, either in content or patches? Love to hear your thoughts on this on the podcast.
So, Max and I have like a spoiler clause where I think it's like basically you have an 8-year window, might be 5-year depending on the medium, where like you can't mention spoilers about a particular movie or show or book. Beyond that point, it's like anything's fair game. So,
It's good that you set those rules ahead of time.
I think, well, I think that's like you can do the same kind of thing with like game support. Like you can basically expect like I think like 5 or 8 years is like a reasonable amount of time before people kind of just like forget about it or stop caring.
Yas
I don't
is getting real out there.
Yeah. I don't know. That seems like a long time, especially for a small studio.
That's well again it's medium dependent I think, and so in this case studio dependent as well.
And also player base.
Yes.
If you have a really large player base, then clearly you want to keep that going. If people
No, I
really
already got
love
their
it
money.
that much. See, maybe the studio
Being pragmatic about it. I mean,
Now like Half-Life's an interesting example because Valve is the one company in the world I 100% believe actually has this Scrooge McDuck pool full of money in the back of the
Yeah,
office.
I
they
could
can
see
afford
it.
it.
So
See it.
and on top of that,
Them and
the
Blizzard.
the updates to the game were it wasn't like to fix like some texture issue. It was security
Yeah.
fixes.
There were crashes.
Well, no, it was actually like there was issues with the game, as far as I understand, with genuine like security problems on the machines.
No. I actually read the patch notes. They were all just crashes and stability stuff.
well, so he asked 2 questions or two topics here, either in content or patches. As far as I'm concerned, they're never obligated to provide more content.
No.
No.
Not at
The
all.
game is the game is. That's the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if they want to add more, then great. But they're under absolutely no obligation to.
I feel like that's something that people think has changed over time, but I agree with you.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
100%.
Now it's one thing if they said ahead of time, hey, all this other content is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if I put a game out,
That's not necessarily obligation. That's like
Right.
that's you've said
But-
it.
yeah. But yeah, if I if I release a game, it's most likely going to be complete,
Mhm.
right? Might do a DLC if it happens to be really popular, but you can't expect them to produce more content
No.
for it.
No.
Patches is another thing.
I feel like that's as long as like a good number of people. I guess then what's a good number? But what a good number of people are still playing the game. You
Yeah.
There's probably some sort of ratio of like
Yeah.
player
Pro-
base
that's
to
a-
team size.
yeah. see that.
To severity of issues,
Correct.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
If 10% of your players the game crashes at a certain point in time, yeah, you should probably fix that.
Yeah.
If 50% of the players has a little graphical glitch here or there, that's obviously not nearly as important.
Right.
And
Well, at that point, you're just doing triage. Like, okay,
oh, yeah.
so what?
I mean,
what's
that's
the?
all you're ever doing.
Mm.
There's
So-
not a single game out there without a fucking bug. in it.
So what would be a good ratio then? If
Jeez, I don't know. There's too
Let-
many
well,
variables.
let's keep it with Half-Life then, since that's what he's actually.
Well, again,
talking
I think
about.
Half-Life's a bad example because Valve
That's a
has
huge
infinite
studio.
money.
Yeah.
Or it's
True.
like
And-
Blizzard, like they're still putting out Diablo patches and
Right.
shit. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is well beyond the realm
Yeah,
of
like,
feasibility for
You can't
most.
you can't compare those kinds of studios to anybody else.
So let's say you have a small studio on Steam PC. Okay.
All right.
They put out a game 2 years ago.
Okay.
They've got, let's say, 40 people. How big would that community have to be?
That's a decent size.
40 people on the
Studio.
team?
Yeah,
That's a
decent
solid
size
That's
team.
a
studio.
solid studio.
Well, let's say, let's keep it with the 40 though.
5.
Yeah.
Like
40?
Yeah.
most indie game teams are.
It was like 3 to 5 people.
Yeah.
We'll keep it with the 40.
Okay.
How big would that community, the people actually playing the game,
Well, okay.
have to be?
All right. What kind of game is it? Is it single player experience? Is it
That's a
multiplayer?
That's a good point. Let's keep it multiplayer. Then.
Okay, multiplayer. So you got to have servers running. You've got to have network support. You've got to have bug fixes. You've got to have preventative fixes for hacks. And like, how big's the player base?
I'm thinking Daisy for this one, so think of it like that.
I don't know.
no
I don't know
Oh,
what the
okay,
numbers are.
Okay,
Daisy.
shit.
I mean, not a small game either.
No.
No.
Well, that was the
Trying to
question,
think.
wasn't
All
it?
right.
How big would the player base have to be?
Yeah,
in
how
order
big?
To...
Yeah, that's actually.
Well, okay.
thank
So
you.
all right. So
you saved
so-
me. I
so
have to
for
do
how
math.
how long then? If we're coming up with a number for player
I
base,
said 2 years.
2
has
years of
passed.
support.
Yes.
2 years after launch,
I don't know.
unless the game's broken.
Unless-
they probably don't have
Yeah.
to fix it. you know,
Unless it's
like-
more than like 1,000 people.
or they still have an active pool of people buying the game regularly.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's the thing though, with like a multiplayer game like that, you've got to either be continuously releasing content that people can buy to bring in more money, or like you said, bring in more players into the player base buying the game. Otherwise, you're losing money. So
So let's change it a little bit. How about single player then?
even less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
single player like the player base. Unfortunately, they're gonna get boned on that because
Mhm.
that's gonna be the kind of game, like Mark says, they already got their money, and if it's only one person, I don't think that they've got. There's not enough voices.
Okay.
The only way I could see a potential exception to that, maybe not. I was gonna say, like, if it was a game that was like really heavy on like procedural content as a single player game, you run into a lot of the same issues you run into with multiplayer games, but it's getting into even more niche territory, and you're not gonna have a 40-member team developing
Yeah.
something like a roguelike like that.
And that's another thing with a single player game. How many of those are going to be online experiencing the kinds of bugs that a multiplayer game are going to be experiencing? You've got a single player game, run it in compatibility mode or whatever, and chances are it's going to work pretty much
I mean,
forever.
there's
It-
every game has bugs in it, and there's
Oh,
gonna be
yeah.
bugs to fix.
But-
and
But
to-
to
well,
the point where it's unplayable,
Yeah, I think with a single player
Potentially.
game, like, okay, if it's an unplayable issue, then they're going to have to release a fix for it.
Yeah.
I feel they are obligated to.
What constitutes unplayable, though?
Like something where you just straight up can't beat a level, or you get to a
Yeah.
point where you cannot actually progress without heavily modifying the game yourself.
The only reason I say that is because people throw that word around so many times, and they don't know what that word actually
I think
means.
unplayable means you literally cannot play the game any further beyond
I
a
agree
certain
with
point.
you.
Not,
Yeah.
oh, I've got
It's-
texture pop in. Like, no,
Just
it's
can't
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Frames drop.
I'm
Right,
just
yeah.
constituting.
my VSync doesn't work. You know, it's
Yeah.
that's not unplayable.
It's not quality of life crap.
Right.
It's you can't advance.
Yeah.
It's an excellent way of saying that. I'm going to take that. Soundbite.
But again, like once you get like every game does release with bugs. However, a single player experience in the traditional sense, like once you get the major stuff fixed and it's working for the vast majority of players, you don't need to support it for more than probably 2-3 years. As long as it's playable, people can beat it. Like, and the thing is, because you got to remember, if it's a single player game, how many times are people actually going to play through it?
Yeah.
Couple at best.
At that point, you're
You
only
know?
saving new people
Yeah.
from the same
Right.
fate.
So then it comes down to how well is it still selling?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I got a good answer out of that. I'm pleased with this. It's a good night. I had fun. How about you guys?
I mean, the short answer is there is way less than people expect
Yeah.
Yeah.
because people are entitled.
And it,
This way.
I'm chewing.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So push the
Well,
mic
I've
away.
Yeah.
I've been dipping back here and eating pretzels because Pat yelled at me about eating on mic, so I don't want people to
You
hear
could
this.
just move the mic away.
Yeah, but I can lean back and I feel like comfortable.
there's certain games I wonder how it worked so flawlessly for so long. Like, you could put original Sims into a computer right now and it would still be.
No way. EA and those games are buggy as fuck.
I can play The Sims. I played The Sims last week.
I'm just telling you. I've had my girlfriend has had more problems with EA like The Sims and their expansions than any other game I've ever experienced in my entire
original
life.
Sims?
Yeah, all of them. They suck.
I don't know.
They're written poorly, especially the newer ones.
Well, they're written poorly, yeah, but I don't
Nah.
know. I've never had a single technological bug with.
You're lucky.
I guess I am super lucky.
God, I got scared for a second there. She like reeled up. I saw fire in her eyes.
no,
they-
there's no fire.
Especially, I think it was 3. So many issues with 3.
I feel
many
like that
Sims
game
are
had
there?
issues
Yeah,
at
those-
launch, though. Like,
Anything beyond like the original Sims, I'm talking like anything beyond that is bullshit anyway. But like, and I'm saying that because the original Sims is just it's so simplistic. Maybe
No, I mean,
know.
forget those games. Just look at any game that ever came on a cart. That game you could not patch.
mhm.
yeah.
So the fact that there were as few bugs as they are in some of those games.
That's
Yes.
excellent point.
Sims 2 was crap. Sims 3 was crap.
Whatever, they're all crap.
Well, I've
EA sucks.
got nothing. Well, I'm not gonna argue with that, but I
Except
got
for
nothing
Battlefield.
but bugs out of those two.
And Battlefront.
But when I think about games that still have multiplayer support for a long time, I'm still thinking of companies that are really large, Treyarch, Infinity, because I'm thinking of all of the old Call of Duties that are still up and still have servers running.
Well, I
Although
see
way
those,
less than they used to. I mean,
They do,
Well, yeah,
but
they have
because
way
you can
less.
turn those
You can
servers
scale
down.
it down,
Yeah.
yeah.
that is typically it's becoming like a
But
2-year
that's
cycle
normal.
at this point. Like
Well, that's because they're releasing a new one every 2
Yeah.
years.
this, but I mean, even still, like Call of Duty, like they're still supporting. Well, like they just shut down. What was the one that everybody lost their shit about? Black Ops 2.
Probably.
Is that?
But Blops 2.
But they're still like supporting like their far-flung releases.
Yeah.
That's because they still have enough of a
Because they
player
made
base.
hundreds of million
yeah,
dollars.
they
on
can
it.
afford to.
Like,
This
And
is
I'm
true.
servers aren't that expensive.
Yeah.
Not when
And
you
I'm not
have them.
talking about like obviously they're going to scale down the servers because you're going to scale it down to whatever your player base is.
Yeah.
You're not going to be stupid and have a million servers for obviously not anyway. But
Shit, that's what I'm doing wrong.
Now, all right, here's a question for you. A lot of these games have very proprietary server setups so that it's just like when it's down, it's down. But there's a few games out there where fans have either built up their own servers or reverse engineered the server code to run them themselves. So you can still play games like Phantasy Star Online or the original Metal Gear Online. So, I mean, what do you guys think about like that?
I think if a company is willing to release the information needed in order to do that, then that's awesome.
Well-
but it's up to the company.
I mean, any type of user content is the company saying, let's get some free like time out of this.
Yeah.
Like without them actually having to put any money down. Like, okay, these people are making content for us. They're pushing it for us without us having to touch it, especially afterwards, because a couple of years afterwards, those are the diehard people playing at that point.
Yeah.
And if they're going to support that, like they're going to play it. So if that's the case, yeah,
I
your turn.
really
Oh,
I don't really care, I guess. Like,
okay.
I mean, if they're circumventing subscriptions and other shit like that,
Sure.
well then fuck them, because that's bullshit. But if the game is no longer supported, no longer running, you paid
Yeah.
for it in the first place, whatever. Spin up a server.
So, do you feel that companies are? I mean, I guess they are within their rights to shut that down if that's
Sure.
happening. But
And I could see why they would want to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really have any problem with it. It's their game. I mean, you
I mean,
kind of
if it's-
like. I feel like most of these situations are with online-only games, anyways.
yeah,
Kind of knew what you were getting into. You knew this game wasn't going to be supported for the next 20 years, right? Like,
it's. I mean, I think it's debatable. I think now, absolutely. But I think if you jump, 10 years back, like that might not have been
No.
quite as common in knowledge. Like some people just would kind of assume that you could play online games on your PS2 forever.
right.
And it's obviously not the case now. But
I mean, fair. That wasn't so much as they just didn't know better at that point.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea is EverQuest still
I don't
a thing?
believe so.
There might be
I
servers
think
out there,
there's
though.
servers
Yeah.
running.
There's
yeah.
still, like, there are fan servers of some of the early MMOs that I played that are
Mhm.
out there that
Okay.
you could
And
go
that's-
play them that aren't supported by the company.
I'm just asking
'Cause the company
EverQuest
doesn't
is the
exist
first one I
anymore.
could think of that's been out for
It's a
been
good
out for a
example
very
for
long
that.
time.
No.
Well, so I mean, it gets easier too with like the examples I was rattling off earlier were console-based games, but PC-based stuff. It's a lot easier to keep those things up and running, especially from a fan point of view. Like I was looking today into like old like MUDs, text-based multiplayer online environments, kind of precursors to MMOs, and you can still hop on game servers that have been running since the early 90s.
Sure.
Oh,
Like
wow.
it's still there. So it again, it comes down to how easy is it to run, how big's the fan base, the player base, and
It's funny that you bring that up because I remember when they were shutting down the Xbox Live server, specifically Halo 2, and there was the players that just like they figured out if they didn't leave the game, they could just keep going forever. And Bungie was just like, "That's cool, bro, but at some point, like you're gonna have to go." So when you say it's easy for PC players, it's completely the opposite for console. Like the 2nd you close that game, you were done. So it was like, and that was a hard stop at that point.
I mean, to be fair, they could have turned those servers off at any given
They
time.
could have.
too.
They
Like,
could have, but
they were trying to be nice
yeah,
about
but
it.
they're
eventually
like,
they'd be
get
"Guys,
off.
fuck
But
off."
it's
Yeah.
still like it still leads to the point of like the console. Like you have no chance in hell
Mhm.
for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to come back? Do we want to take a break and do after credits? Or are we good?
I'm probably gonna be
Whatever.
heading out.
We'll figure it out. But in the meantime,
we may or may not be back.
yeah, we may or may not be back if you're watching. But thank you for joining us again. If any of this nonsense sounds interesting to you, please give us a rating on iTunes or tell your friends, loved ones, or anyone else that you might think might enjoy what we do here. I said might a lot in that sentence. Because this is how this group grows. And if you're in Buffalo and like to come down and see this place for yourself, we are at the Tri-Main Building, Suite 454. Stand by on the stream if we do for after credits. And thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
Adios.